Get ready for a powerhouse of inspiration. Principal Kafele. A highly regarded educator and a transformational leader, Principal Kafele has spent over 20 years in New Jersey's urban schools, making a lasting impact as both a master teacher and a turnaround principal. Under his leadership, the mighty Newark Tech transformed from a low-performing school to one of America's best, as recognized by U.S. News and World Report 3 times. A recipient of the prestigious Milken Educator Award, Principal Kafele is one of the most sought-after voices in school leadership and equity. He's delivered over 3,000 keynotes, workshops, and seminars across the nation, authored 13 books, including 7 ASCD bestsellers, and continues to empower leaders through his live-streamed AP and New Principals Academy. Please join us in welcoming the extraordinary Principal Kafele.
And we are live. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to week 302 consecutively of the AP and New Principals Academy. Let me see who we got checking in here this morning. We got a lot of people here checking in early. We got Mona Obermolak leading us off from Orlando, Florida. We got Patrick Lawrence down in Connecticut. We got Dr. Rachel Edoeket in Maryland, the Maryland Association of Elementary School Principals president. We got Robin Snowden, Dr. Robin Snowden out in Fresno, California. You know, I always appreciate you getting up early, Doc. We got Chancellor Davis in Las Vegas, Nevada, 702. And you know, I always appreciate you getting up early as well. We got Nolene Martin, North Texas. That's early too. All y'all early, man. Where we at? We got Janine Wilkins. She all the way in Alaska, right? But hey, Janine, you know I appreciate you getting up, and we got to get you on this platform too. We're gonna get it going. We're gonna get it. I'm glad you're here. Where we at? We got Grace Castaneda, Kyle, Texas, Rodney Richardson, Hampton, Virginia. Where we at? Lysandra Brackens is in North Carolina. I appreciate all of y'all that switched over to YouTube as well. I appreciate you on the one hand. On the other hand, these are hard to read, baby. I only know your name. I can only read them because I know who you are. If it wasn't for that, I'll be struggling big time. We got Mr. James K12 in the building. Where we at? He's in Colorado. It's no telling what the weather is in Colorado. It could be like snowstorm blizzard on one day and then sunny and 70 degrees on the next day, man. It's weird weather in Colorado in that Denver area. We got Principal Otis Kitchen II in the building, Tampa, Florida. He probably down there warm. We got Marsha Poe in San Diego. She probably warm too. It's warm every day in San Diego. Don't matter what the rest of the country's doing. It's typically nice out there. We got Takesha High in Virginia. Dr. Sonia A. Matthew is in the building. NBCT, National Board Certified Teacher. I did a podcast interview with her and Sean Gallard recently, and I think they're going to debut it tomorrow, if I'm not mistaken, Super Bowl Sunday. Y'all better debut that thing before that Super Bowl, and y'all better get on there and watch it before that Super Bowl, because when that Super Bowl come on, I'm locked in. I'm going for Seattle. Right, that's where I'm at. Let's go. We got Yolanda McKinney, Texas. Miss Truesdale, Atlanta AP. Ronald Pugh, Cedar Hill, Texas. Joy, Stacey L. Joy out in LA, Los Angeles. Charlena Hottie, Norfolk, Virginia. Where we at? Edwin here from New Jersey. I don't know if that's Edwin Garcia or not. Well, here I see Edwin Garcia. So that's a different Edwin. Hey, Edwin. And then we got Dr. Edwin Garcia, Principal. Dr. Edwin Garcia checking in. He's on the schedule now. He's going to be one of our guests, man. It's coming. It'll be here at some point. We got 4AZ Teach checking in from Phoenix, Arizona. We got LaKenya Rowland is in New Jersey. Oh, Jersey in the building, man. Jersey strong, man. That's how we do it. We got Verna Davidson, 4845 Tobago, Trinidad. Right. See, I gotta keep telling y'all, man, we not just domestic, man. We're not just in the US, we worldwide, baby. That's what we built. I appreciate you checking in from Trinidad. I spoke there once. It's time to get back, right? Trinidad and Tobago. Where we at? We got Cameron Muato. I appreciate you. Appreciate you being here. Dr. Sheikah Houston, South Carolina is in the building. And speaking of Dr. Sheikah Houston, let me give you the rundown real quick. Every Saturday morning, 10 o'clock, Facebook Live. Sean Hurt dropping nuggets every Saturday morning, followed by Dr. Sheikah Houston, Dr. Tammy Taylor with Create and Educate, followed by AP New Principals Academy, which we ask you to watch us on YouTube, right? And then Sunday morning is Josh Tovar and Dr. Madi Moreno with the PGP podcast. And then I'm going to close it out. I see the queen of the castle, Kimberly Broaden Kafele, is in the building. She said, good morning. I'm going to cut it off right there. Now, I ain't going to say nobody after my wife. I see some names I need to say, but I ain't going to say them, right? So I see y'all. Let's get it started, y'all. Let me say to everybody formally, good morning. Greetings. Welcome to week 302 consecutively of the AP and New Principals Academy. Hey, y'all, you know I got that question for you, man, every week. How you feel? How you feel? If you were with me on Facebook yesterday, I saw something in the news about some apes. I ain't going to get into it, man, because I got a guest, and if I do get into it, it will take me about 30 minutes to get off of it. So I'm not even going to get into it. But all I'm going to say is, please visit my Facebook page and read my commentary. It's called Apes and Monkeys. It seemed like it's trying to go viral. It's got like 160 some odd shares right now. Right? It's called Apes and Monkeys. I'm going to just leave it there because if I get into it, my guest, Dr. Lamont Repollet, will never get up here until about 12 o'clock. So I'm going to leave it alone. Right? But it's been in my spirit. It's been in my soul. It's been in my psyche since my wife, because I was watching ESPN. Oh God, I feel like I'm getting into it. I was watching ESPN. I was home yesterday. I was finished with my road trips, and my wife said, "Did you see this?" I'm like, "Nah." Oh, so I went right to the computer and I went buck wild. My wife said, "I knew you were gonna do that." Yeah. So I'm not gonna get into it, y'all. Y'all go to my Facebook page, not right now though, later, right, and read my thoughts. And feel free to leave a comment. I had a few, I don't even want to use that name. The people that follow him will just keep it there. I don't want to say that name. And they was like jumping on me, trying to get on me. I don't, like I don't respond to that. They blessed us with a button that says block, right? So I just hit the block button. Nice seeing you for a nice few seconds of my life, and I'll never see you again. Let's get back on topic. How y'all feeling, man? I hope you're feeling good, because I'm going to tell you, I'm feeling real good. I'm on fire right now. I went to Kane University in 1984, September 2nd, my first day there. I was 23 years old. That means my guest was about 12 years old, right? My guest this morning was about 12 years old when I walked onto that campus on September 2nd, 1984. And by the end of that day, I was not, hear me somebody, because y'all don't hear me, I was not the person that walked on that campus that day, because I stumbled on a book in the library. I ain't going to get into it, y'all, not right now, because I do have him in the wings. But I got to tell you something. He was 12 years old, if I got the ages right, because I'm 65. I think he's like 50, 54 or something like that, right? So now he was 12. I want y'all to keep that in your head. Now he's the president of the university. Y'all ain't hear me, man. Y'all ain't hear me. You ain't hear me. Hit that share button. Hit that retweet. Hit that repost. Call somebody. Tag somebody. Tell them that we got it going on this morning, right? So now he's the president of the university. Let's go. I got announcements. Hey, y'all, what were your wins last week? You know I got to ask you that. What were your wins? Right? Don't get so overly consumed with your challenges, with your obstacles, with your pressures, with your demands, right? Don't get so overly consumed with that, because within all them weeds, it was some winning that happened. And you got to always acknowledge them, always recognize them, always accentuate your wins. They matter. And then you build from your wins. Don't forget that. So my secondary question, what will you do next week that takes your leadership to another level? Oh man, that matters. Let's go, y'all. Hey, shout out to real quick, I only got one shout out to give y'all. Actually, I got two. Shout out to Rosedale Center. It's an alternative school. I was there for 2 days this week in Baltimore County, Rosedale, Baltimore County, Maryland. Oh man. I don't even know where to begin. So I'm not going to give you much. What a 2 days. And y'all, you know something, they gave me an opportunity to speak to all the young men, the boys, right? This alternative school, all the young men, they brought them all in the room, right? So I'm gonna keep it real. So when I started, you know, I could tell they weren't feeling me. I could say, you know, you know that as a speaker, you know when the audience ain't feeling you. So I said, they ain't feeling me, man. I said, okay. So forget the formal presentation I was getting ready to do. Come at them raw and bring that volume up, right? Bring that volume up. Oh, they looking now. They looking. They in it. They even on my website, right? I didn't even realize it at first. I'm like, what they looking at? Are we on your website? Oh, okay. See, sometimes you gotta read the room right. I probably misread the room and thought I could go in there mellow, you know, and just kind of talk. That they needed that fire, you know. So I brought that fire. We wound up speaking to them the period before lunch, then let them eat lunch and hit them again after lunch. How about that? Right. So, you know, so it was just a great day, man. If it's anybody on here right now from Rosedale Center, give me some love in them comments, man. Right. Let's go. Y'all, welcome to the first timers. If this is in fact your first time, I'm glad you're here. But I got to tell you, that means you missed 301 sessions, right? So you got some binge watching to do. Go to the AP New Principals Academy YouTube channel and just binge watch. Don't watch that stuff on TV, all them reality shows. I got the reality at the AP and New Principals Academy, right? So just go there and watch that reality, because I promise you, I'm going to say it 3 times. I promise you that them 301 sessions, including today's 302, that will take your leadership beyond the roof. Man, just watch them and make sure you subscribe. We got 24,800 subscribers. That means if I invited all my subscribers to a Knicks game at Madison Square Garden, 4,800 of y'all would have to wait outside, because I can't fit you all in the building. Right? They only fit 20,000 at a Knicks game. We got 24,800 subscribers to this channel. Right? Let's go. Real quick, y'all. I got to get these announcements in before I get to my monologue. What is my value? Let me put that up there. Put it on the screen right quick. We do this real quick. Where we at? I can't even find it. I'm moving too fast. Here we are. So let's go with the other one. So if you don't have a copy yet of what is my value instructionally to the teachers I supervise, there it is on the screen. Get yourself a copy, right? Just go to Amazon or go to ascd.org. Get yourself a copy. It's the most important book that I will ever write. Most important book I've written, most important book I will ever write, because it's all about instructional leadership. So make sure you get that book. Secondly, the Nurturing Greatness Summit, I kind of hinted last week we may not have it. We scrapped that. We're having it. Let me say it again. We're having the Nurturing Greatness Conference February the 16th at Seton Hall University. I'm hosting along with Dr. Tanya Breland and Dr. Erica Leak. So come to Seton Hall, join us. It's going to be a full day. Dr. Salome Thomas L., Principal L, is our keynoter, and it's going to be a phenomenal day. So it's happening, right? February the 16th, Seton Hall University. Go to my Facebook page at Principal Kafele. I put the flyer right at the top of the page, so I wouldn't have to waste time bringing it up here. Go right to the top of the page, click or put your phone to the QR code, register, and I'll see you February 16th. Another announcement, make sure that you can go to my website, talking too fast, the School Leadership Institute with Principal Kafele. Go to principalkafele.com, scroll down, and you will see the registration link. You'll see the whole ad and the registration. Just go there and register early. You get the early bird special if you register right now. Quite a few have registered already. That's July 9 and 10 in Savannah, Georgia. July 9 and 10 in Savannah, Georgia. One more time, July 9 and 10 in Savannah, Georgia. School Leadership Institute with Principal Kafele. Go to principalkafele.com. Scroll down on the homepage, click the link, register, and we will see you July 9 and 10 in Savannah, Georgia. Lastly, and then I'll get to my monologue. You know I'm the president-elect of the New Jersey Alliance of Black School Educators, right? What an honor. Well, we have our first informational meeting. I sent a personal invitation to 135 people last Sunday. And just about all of them went on and registered. That's another blessing. But there's a few that did not. There's a few I wouldn't know your contact information because I don't know everybody in New Jersey. So if you're sitting here listening right now and you think you'd like to be a part of NJABSE, NJ Alliance of Black School Educators, which is the New Jersey affiliate of the National Alliance of Black School Educators, if you're a Black educator, you need to be with us, right? So send me an inbox. Any of my social media, just send me an inbox and say, I didn't get an invite from you. That's because I don't know you or you so out of touch with me these days. Send me an inbox. Just say, I want to come to the informational meeting. It's a virtual meeting on February the 24th at 6:30. And I'll send you the information you need to register, right? Again, inbox me. I want you to be in the building. I want New Jersey to be the powerhouse state of the National Alliance of Black School Educators, although Texas is. We're not the size of them, but it don't mean we can't be right up there with them, right? But we need numbers. So make sure that you go to my inbox on any of my social media and tell me you want to be a part of the informational meeting, and I will send you the registration link. Enough said. I got this monologue. We're gonna keep it short, y'all. My monologue today is called "When You Control a Man's Thinking." Once again, when you control a man's thinking. What am I saying? You know, today is February the 7th. We're concluding the first week of what is known as Black History Month, which was created as Negro History Week by the late, great Dr. Carter G. Woodson. But today, this month, is also the 100th anniversary of Black History Month. Now, I'm not going to get into all the specificity of Black History Month here because I got this guest that I want to max his time. So all I'm going to say is this. Dr. Woodson wrote 16 books. All of those books are worth reading. I have several here at the house, but there's one in particular that, for whatever the reason, it's the one that kind of defines his writing, his scholarship. It's the one that everybody gravitates to, right? And I have a very old copy in front of me, The Miseducation of the Negro, written in 1933. Soon after I became a student at Kane University, I stumbled on that book. And I was looking at the introduction, and there was a passage within a paragraph of the introduction that blew my mind. It blew me away. At the time I read it, I had no idea what I was going to be in terms of my career or my profession. But by the time I finished reading this book, I knew exactly what I was going to be. I was going to be a teacher, but I did not study education at Kane University. I studied marketing. So now I had to make a switch. I didn't start over. I just figured it out, right? But he said in that book, right in the opening, right in the introduction, this passage within a broader paragraph, he said, when you control a man's thinking, you do not have to worry about his actions. You do not have to tell him not to stand here or go yonder. He will find his quote unquote proper place and he will stay in it. You do not need to send him to the back door. He will go without being told. In fact, if there is no back door, he will cut one for his special benefit. His education makes it necessary. So with my commentary, I said, man, you know, I've been reciting that thing now for 40 years. I've been public speaking for 40 years. So I've been reciting that passage so long. That's why I know it so well, right? I don't want anybody to, oh, Kafele, man, he's smart, man. No. I've been reciting this for 40 years. I've given over 3,000 speeches. So that means I've said this 3,000 plus times, right? So I'm saying this to you, that where it says he will find his proper place and stay in it, man, that hit me, but it hit me in a real special way, like within the past year. And I started creating workshops around that word, those two words, proper place. So I just want to give you this. I ask educators every place I speak now. Now I'm asking you, what kind of experience do children receive under your leadership? What is the experience of being a student under your leadership? I didn't ask what's the experience of being a student in your school. I'm asking what's the experience of being a student in your school under your leadership? So in other words, I'm asking, is it a proper place experience? Ooh. Because proper place means I'll just find some, I'm going to use a 70 slang. I'll just find some old jive thing to do, right? And I'll just do that for the rest of my life, not knowing I got all this greatness in me, this extraordinary, amazing, phenomenal talent within me, but it's never been tapped into. So I'll just find my quote unquote, proper place, non-threatening, doesn't move the status quo. It's just, I'm just there and I'll just do that. Nobody knows that I even exist, right? So what is the experience, my Aunt Cynthia? What is the experience under your leadership? Is it proper place or capital letter? Or write these down. Is it an experience of becoming a dreamer? Ooh. Do y'all realize that there are children that come to your schools with an inability to dream because of their circumstances? Like dreaming is like doing a complicated math equation. They can't dream. They limited, but it's not their fault. It's their circumstances. So is it something about the experience of being in your school that it goes beyond proper place, but it's an experience of being able to dream, or an experience to believe? Believe in what? Believe in my ability to spread my wings and fly. Woo! Or is it an experience of being a visionary? I'm going to talk to my guest in a minute about being a visionary, because I met this man when he was a teacher striving to be an assistant principal. And now he the president of a university. We're going to talk vision in a minute. Is it an experience of becoming a thinker, like using this, exercising this, your brain? Or is it an experience of becoming a doer, not just a talker, but a man and woman of action, a doer? Is it an experience of being a builder, a creator? Or is it an experience of proper place? Is it an experience of being purpose-driven, having a why, having a reason, having a because? Is it an experience of being determined to be successful? Or is it an experience of disrupting the status quo? Disruptor. That's my monologue, y'all. Make sure that that experience, I'm not talking about that experience under your teacher. I'm talking about you, because what your teacher does is a reflection of your leadership. And I'm asking you, are students leaving your school, graduating from your school with proper place mentalities? Or they gonna walk out here and leave their mark that we know you were here because of what you accomplished, because of the footprints that you created. Enough said, y'all. Some of y'all been commenting on my gear. That means you knew. You're not veterans, because this is all I've been wearing for 302 weeks. I got more of these than I do the clothes I wear when I do my work. I'm wearing Satchel Paige right now. Kansas City Monarchs, the baddest, I hope y'all understand this word, the baddest pitcher ever to pitch a baseball. Major leagues, Negro leagues, whatever leagues. I don't care what leagues you talking about. Ain't nobody that can throw that ball like Satchel Paige. He should have gone to the major leagues before Jackie Robinson, but they were concerned about his temperament because Jackie, they felt he could withstand the racism he was going to receive. But Satchel Paige, they thought he might not be able to withstand it and he might confront it in ways that Jackie Robinson didn't do it. So he came out in 1948 instead of 47 at the age of 42. And what did he do in the major leagues? He won Rookie of the Year at 48 years old and was part of the pitching staff that took the Cleveland Indians to the World Series in 1948 and won the World Series. Satchel Paige. So much more I could say about him, but I'm getting ready to bring up my guest, y'all. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. I got to change that background, man. Hang on a second before you say anything. Let me change that background. Bam. Let me get that logo out the way. Where we at? Bam. We good. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
How you feeling?
I'm doing good, man. Doing good. I heard your monologue and the things you're talking about. We have a lot of things to unpack today, man. I'm excited. It's Black History Month. You started quoting my guy, Carter G. Woodson, to understand the place. These are some of the things that I always talk about. But I like the question you actually have. Is it a proper place you're creating that experience for your students? So I love to be able to talk about that, weave in the book. But let's just have this dialogue, brother, between you and I, man. Right. Just have this leadership dialogue. We haven't had a session, a model one session like this in a long time. So I'm ready. Right. I'm jacked up.
Hey, man, let me tell you something, Doc. And I don't call anybody on this thing by their first name ever. You know, y'all work too hard for them doctorates. But you know, it's funny, like most of the people that are on here, when they hear the monologue, whatever it may be, they chomping at the bit. They ready to dive into the monologue. So when you said that, it didn't surprise me at all. Hey, fam out there, let me tell you who our guest is. I want to read this bio, and then we're going to jump into it. But before I read it, hit that share button, retweet, repost, tag somebody, call somebody, text somebody, hit them Facebook leadership groups up, let them know we're here, and hit that like button. Right, we're in an algorithm-driven world. Hit that like button. I don't care what platform you're on, YouTube, which is where I prefer you be. But if you're on Facebook, Twitter, or X, or LinkedIn, just hit that like button so that we get max numbers of administrators on here. I don't want the general public ever. But folks who have an interest in leadership, that's who we want here. We got Dr. Lamont Repollet. Is a nationally respected education leader and public administrator with over 3 decades of experience making a positive impact across the education continuum, from pre-kindergarten to post-secondary education. As the first Black president of Kean University, my alma mater, in New Jersey's Urban Research University, and a newly designated Carnegie R2 Research Institution, Dr. Repollet leads a dynamic majority-minority campus of nearly 19,000 students with a global presence in, and I hope I pronounce this right, Wenzhou, which is in China, Dubai, Brazil, and elsewhere. So again, let me share that with you again. Kean University, when I went there, it was a little small place. My father went there too. It was called oh my God, Newark something. And
college.
North State, yeah. And now here we are, 19,000 students with a global presence in China, Dubai, Brazil, and elsewhere. And it's even coming. I live right around the corner from New Jersey City University. And in a few minutes from now, to use the slang, it will be Kean University, Jersey City, right? So it's on the move under this man. Under his leadership, Kean has experienced a historic transformation in research productivity, student success, and national visibility. A champion for equity and innovation, Dr. Repollet has launched groundbreaking initiatives that foster dual degree programs with elite institutions like Howard University, expand global exchanges, and strengthen workforce development pipelines. His commitment to access and excellence has earned Kean national recognition for advancing social mobility. Previously, Dr. Repollet served as New Jersey's first Black Commissioner of Education, overseeing the nation's top-ranked public school system with a $12.3 billion budget and over 2,400 students. He led the state through the COVID-19 crisis, designing policy and operational frameworks for remote learning and safe opening. A former superintendent principal, and teacher, Dr. Repollet is a proven change agent, having significantly increased graduation rates and reduced dropouts in underserved communities. He is a sought-after speaker and advisor, serving on state and national education boards and holding memberships in Sigma Pi Phi and Phi Beta Sigma. Dr. Repollet's leadership is driven by a vision of inclusive excellence, positioning institutions as engines of innovation, access, and opportunity for the next generation. That's a lot. That's a lot.
That's a mouthful, brother. That's a mouthful.
Mouthful. Let's jump into it. You know, I'm going off script already. Yeah, this is not in my notes. I'm going off script. You know, equity and innovation. Doc, I speak in 49 states, and I'm finally got Wyoming on board, so we'll be there at some point soon. That was the one holdout, but we finally got that. But you know, a lot of places that I go, this word, you know, folks know that equity is my thing. I've written about it. I got a book about it. So they'll say to me on the Zoom call, we're sitting on the computer right here, and they'll say to me, Principal Kafele, you can't bring that word here. You can't bring equity here. Right? You can't bring race here. Any conversation around race, any conversation around diversity, any conversation around inclusion. You can't bring that here, right? One particular place, which I won't name, they made it clear. Then a few days before my arrival, they said, let's have another meeting for the sole purpose of reinforcing that message that you can't bring that here. Here's my question to you. There are folks, I call our audience the fam. And by the way, let me say to Rashan Hassan publicly, I'm with you, sir. I'm in your corner, and I don't need to tell you what that is. It's just do know that the brother sitting right here is with you. Never doubted you. I'm with you, right? I just want to say that publicly for those out there who know you. Like the phrase says, if you know, right? Enough said. So my question to you, Doc. There are people in the fam. The audience out here, which I call the fam, who are in those states. So there's some frustration. We're trying to be equitable, but we run into problems with that. Us as leaders, our teachers, I have a multitude of strategy to navigate that, but I want to go to you on that. How do they navigate being in those systems, being in those states where equity will get you in trouble, but yet you and I both knowing that equity is the ticket to success? Talk to him.
Well, thank you very much, Brother Kafele. But let me just, before I dive into that, I want to give you your flowers. First of all, I think Rashan Hassan, that's our guy as well too. So you know I'm in your corner too, brother, and you know that. But let me just give you your flowers first, and I'm gonna get to that question we're gonna pack. We have a lot of time. There's no rush. I'm not going anywhere. But I want to talk about you for a moment. For a lot of the audience or the fam you have going out there, you know, it's hard when you're trying to ascend to a position, right? When you're trying to make that leap from teacher to administrator, it's challenging, right? And you may not have the mentoring, you may not have the folks that would support you in that sense. But let me tell you, I started off as a teacher in East Orange. I knew right away that I wanted to be an administrator. And let me tell you this, I identified this young, authentic principal that was out there speaking truth to power. And I identified Baruti Kafele. And I started having conversations with him, man, and I started watching him. So when they say model the way, that's real. I started emulating him, modeling the way. And the one thing that I took from him is authenticity. You know, being able to lead a school with your authentic self allows you to be in that space. We could talk about equity. This is going to tie into that as well. To allow you to be in that space, to do the work you need to do. And at times when you're in that space like that, you might have to make hard choices. Those hard choices, I may have to leave that system that's not designed for me. Or it's too hard to actually change the system because the institution is far greater than you. And that's okay, because some institutions are rooted in such injustice that it's hard. And so you have to kind of change how you operate, not in the sense of, it's called being creative. right? Not in the sense of who you are, but being creative. Instead of using the word equity, let's talk about access a little bit more and kind of use those things. But this brother here never said to me, I'm busy. I can't right now. Just the way he's pouring on you for 302 Saturdays, he poured into me a couple of days a week when I saw him. But I saw the people around him, whether it's Kevin Booker, right? Brother Booker, when I saw Sancha Gray, Dr. Sancha Gray, I saw the people around him, and he didn't push me away, because sometimes young administrators, sometimes people look at it as a threat, and then that brother didn't. He embraced what I wanted to do and had a conversation with me. And so he was my first mentor. I go on record to say he's the first unofficial mentor that I've ever had in making the conversation and going to administration. So I've never said that to him publicly. I want to say right now, brother, you are the first mentor, because I've had brothers above us, right, that didn't give me the time of day, felt threatened, and didn't pour into me. Didn't pour into me because they didn't want to give me their secret sauce. So they wanted to be the HNIC. You know what that is? They wanted to be the HNIC, but not Baruti Kafele. Baruti Kafele said, if I can create, and this is me interpreting his thing, if I can create an army of individuals who love students and want to get them to the next level and create an environment that they can pour into, then I'm going to do that. So he looked at, so if you look at your coaching tree now, and a lot of times your coaching tree may be on the K-12 level, but let me just identify. Kevin Booker, vice president down there in Morehouse College.
Appreciate that.
Right? Sancha Gray, dean, Dr. Sancha Gray, dean of the College of Education at King University, and Lamont Repollet president. So look at your coaching tree, brother.
Yeah.
So it's real. You've been doing this for years. You said 40 years speaking and pouring into, you've been doing it for years. So I want to say thank you, my man, for really pouring into us. The impact that you had with Sancha, the impact you have with Kevin, myself, trust me, it's not something that we have found lost. So I appreciate you, man. And I wanted to just publicly say thank you for that. But answering your question, man, I think the reality is,
hang on, no, that's huge, man. I can't even let you transition to that next one. I appreciate that. Let's stay there for a second.
Okay.
To the fam out there, because it's a lot of veterans. I see my mother. I appreciate you, Ma. My mother said thank you for that. Dolores Bushney on Facebook. There's a lot of veterans out here as well, not just newbies that are on the thread in part of the fam. So let me just remind you, based on what Dr. Repollet just said, that's part of our responsibility. Yesterday, I spoke with a group of administrators in Minnesota, and they asked me to come on for about 10 minutes. They said, just can you give, because, they're in Minnesota, so, they're dealing with stuff. They said, can you come on for 10, these were assistant principals. They said, can you come on for 10 to 15 minutes max? I said, yeah, I'll come on. And y'all know me. I don't know how to do 10 to 15 minutes, right? She said, I can't, she said, I can pay you out of my pocket, she said. This was the director. I said, no, you keep that money. I stayed on with them yesterday, sitting at my living room table over here. I stayed on for an hour, y'all. An hour talking to these assistant principals in Minnesota. See, because that's what I do, right? So, I'm encouraging someone else out there. If that's not what you do, make sure that's what you do as well, right? That's important. So I appreciate you, Doc. Man.
Yeah, no, you definitely modeled the way, and that's something that I took from you. And people around me know, within my ecosystem, my fam, my inner circle, is that we pour into each other and we cultivate the next level and we bring them along as well. And so there's enough food on the table to eat for everyone to eat. And I think that's the reality, is that some folks, maybe as president and as a leader, your plate's bigger, right? But then everyone is eating off that plate. And I think that's the reality of it. So thank you, brother, for all that.
Appreciate
you. So get into this question. So yeah. I'm going to probably weave in some of these chapters in my book. So there's a chapter called.
Well, tell them the book first.
Oh, the book is Leadership,
put up to this.
Leadership by Design.
Hold that close to the camera.
See it?
Yeah. So they can see that.
Leadership by Design, Winning Hearts, Building Your Brand, and Achieving Success. And we can dive into that as we start to have these conversations. This is my first book, and so yesterday I wrote, in honor of my wife and my co-author, I wrote that when I was in high school, I wasn't a great writer, right? And so I met my wife in English class, and it was so fun. It was ironic. The irony is the fact that the other day she posted a picture of me signing her book, and I said, "Wow, here you are supporting me from day one." I couldn't write. I had this biggest fear, this writer's block of fear, because I didn't have the vocabulary. I couldn't get what was here on paper. But my co-author, Robin Lander, distinguished Professor Robin Lander, taught me some tricks and some tools on, you know what? Get it out, do a brain dump, audio, transcribe that. Look what you have. And we created something that's special, right? We created something, we could talk about that later. But let me getting back. So one of the chapters, chapter 9, it talks about creative resilience. And I think that's when the plans you have in place don't go the way you want it to go. But what are you going to do? How do you react? And I think this whole piece with these policies and that this current administration is doing in regards to DEI, they've kind of demonized the acronym DEI and made it a negative thing. But we can go into how DEI, I think, didn't support African Americans anyway. But that's another story. Mm-hmm. But understanding that diversity, equity, and inclusion is very important, right? So how do you get around that? For those who are in systems in the South, particularly, right, in those red states, and really have to thread the needle between feeding my family and also educating our students, be smart, guys. Be smart, right? Because you need to be able to feed your family. You need a livelihood, but understand, find ways. So we started using the word access, right? Access, because access is broad enough to fit into all those things. Because to me, people think equity is equality, but it's not. Right. And so we have access and things like that. So creative ways where you can actually get around the system. Now, I don't know your system to give you the answer to get around, but you know your system, right? And have some conversations about that. And sometimes, I'll be honest with you, if the system is so rigid, you may have to find another system, another institution, another place that's going to work. Because sometimes when you have your mindset a certain way, and you're fighting constantly against the system, against the man, that doesn't do well for whom you're serving, which is your students, because they're not going to get the best version of yourself, because you're coming in angry with baggage and things like that. Then you have to change the game. So that'd be my advice to so-and-so. Find different ways in which you can get around the system, right? Be creative. Use words and terms that try to find synonyms that go with DEI, that they don't know, and use those words instead, and start building your own vocabulary. Because all you gotta do is change the words, but your action's still the same. And that's being creative. So that's how we attacked it at Kane University, right? To be honest with you.
You know, it's interesting. You said to the fam out there, those of you who are regulars with us, then you just heard a reinforcement of something I've been telling you for 6 years now on this platform, that sometimes your name is not on the building upon which you lead, right? Your name is on a different building. It may be in a different system, as Dr. Repollet said. It may even be in a different state, right? That may not be your place. I had to move around to find my place, right? So, and which you all know about. So sometimes, but that's the end all. Right. There may be some things you're doing there, but and that's for another conversation. But that word access. Yeah. See, sometimes you got to use different language. So I'll go into a place and do a whole 6-hour equity presentation and never said the word equity. And they gave me a standing ovation. Right. Not knowing they were cheering and clapping for equity, and then invited me back. Right. So, so you got to know how to navigate that. Let's go. Hey, Doc, going back, yeah, we met when you were a teacher. Mm-hmm. You were striving to become an assistant principal. So, when I was putting together my agenda, it made me think about that youngster. And here we are in Super Bowl weekend. So that youngster that's playing Pop Warner, Little League football, whatever they call it in their respective states, but on their mind, every one of them youngsters, I bet you everybody on here will agree with me, including you. They're all thinking, one day I'm going to be in that Super Bowl. Right. So there's this vision, even if it's not a realistic vision, there's this vision that I'm going to be there one day. I'm playing that Super Bowl. I'm in 5th grade right now, 4th grade, 3rd grade playing Pop Warner, but I'm going to be there. So I want to look at you. You and I having conversations about being an assistant principal. Right. But my question to you, I don't think you envisioned New Jersey Commissioner of Education. I don't think you envisioned Kane University. I don't think, maybe you did, and you can tell me in a second. But talk to me about the vision that you did have and why, as a classroom teacher, what was it in you that allowed you to think as big as you did, if you did? I could be way off base. You tell me now. Talk to me.
Well, the thing about it, I think it was all driven by money, to be honest with you. I'm not gonna lie. I think that the teacher's salary versus the principal's salary is something that I would be a game changer for my family, right? And I was looking for those things, especially when you surround yourself with individuals at the times in the tech or in the finance world, and they was getting bonuses of $5,000, $10,000. And you understand, back in the day, we were getting increments and steps from $300 to $500. And so I think that was the original thing that kind of motivated me, was where can I be in education to make money? But the reality is, when you're in the classroom, I think that I started thinking differently, though, Brother Kafele. I went from thinking about how much money I make to thinking about the impact that I can make within the school. So I went from a microcosm thinking to a macrocosm thinking, right? Understanding that if I can effectuate change in this one class, imagine what I can do if I'm the principal, assistant principal of an entire school. And then from there, what can I do when I can effectuate change more broadly if I'm superintendent? I never thought about being commissioner of education. That's God's plan, and we could talk about that later. Never in my life did I say I wanted to be a commissioner of education for the great state of New Jersey, or I wanted to be a principal, president of a university. I kept my sights on the fact that in the classroom, in the school, because that's all I knew, though, Kafele, that's all I knew, was just that. And I realized that I was pretty good at it. I was pretty good at getting attention of our students, because that's the first thing, right? How do you get their attention enough for them to actually listen and be engaged? And how do you educate, right? And so for me, the whole thought was just being a teacher, right? To pay, then being a principal, so I can go on vacation, I can support my family. But I went from thinking that when you're dealing with kids, man, your mindset changes to how can you better them? And I think that's what it was. So I figured if I can do this here in this classroom, why can't do it in the school?
Yeah. You see our colleague sitting there, right?
Yeah.
Joe Rafinsky? Yes. Yeah. Listen, I want to stay there for a second.
Mm-hmm.
Because you did elevate, right? There are people in the world, and you know this, who have self-doubt, who are in these leadership positions, right? Self-esteem may not be where it needs to be. Imposter syndrome is real. What is this? So I want to use you as this example and this bridge to somebody taking their game to the next level. What is this thing? What is that thing in you, Doc, that you're such a firm believer in yourself? Because I do know that about you, right? You even had the audacity to write a book, right? What is that thing in you that keeps you developing, growing, evolving, improving? What is that?
I mean, it wasn't always there, brother. I mean, I went to.
Well, how did you get it?
I got that through knowledge. I got through education, right? And you talking about, we talking about Carter G. Woodson, Black History Month. I started getting that. When you start to understand your history, when you start to understand yourself, you start to create this self-concept, this belief that you belong, right? This belief that you can do. And so there's this quote that I put yesterday. I do a weekly message. I haven't missed, just like you, Kafele. You've done 300 Saturdays. I have not missed a weekly message in 6 years in this job, 2.5 years, in almost 9 years, 8.5 years. I have not missed a weekly message to my staff, to my community, to my faculty. Started as a commissioner of education, because they said that we don't hear you. These roles, that they're not visible, right? We don't see you. And so I wanted to be able to communicate with my people, hear my voice, right? And then when I became president, it was during COVID. And I wanted to pretty much have them hear my voice, know who I am, because we had a campus, but no students were on campus. And so just like you, so I get a message for 9 years. And this message this week was about the book, about my fears of writing and how I overcame that. And then there's a quote from the movie Carter, Coach Carter, when it says it's not that our biggest fear is not that we're failure, and I'm quoting it. I mean, our biggest fear is that we're powerful beyond a measure. So when you start to think about your own history, your own lived experiences, you start to realize you've overcome a lot of things. So you're powerful more than you ever imagined. But we're afraid of that power. We're afraid of that power sometimes because we walk in these rooms and our head, our mind tells us that we can't do it because we on free and reduced lunch, because we on welfare, because we live in the projects, because we can't do X, Y, and Z. So we start to put these things. So that's why one of the biggest books that I always recommend to anyone for leadership is The Alchemist, right, by Paulo Coelho. It's really looking for your personal legend. And I think once you start to understand who you are, when you start to hear the history of this proud people of being African and feeling proud about that and feeling proud enough to wear a dashiki and be our authentic self, because guess what? You're not concerned with what other folks may think. Then you start to build your self-concept. Then you start to believe, instead of going saying, well, it's impossible to I'm possible. And I think that's the mind shift. So I didn't have that, man. I'll be honest with you. I didn't have it. I'm going to tell you where I started gaining it from. I started gaining when I got in East Orange. Right? Because in East Orange, they had this African, Afrocentric, Black-centric, this mentality, right? And they still do to this day, which allowed you talk about the building with your name on it. That allowed you to wear a dashiki in that school and go and have this Black-centric approach to education, right? So I observed that, and that allowed me to grow. That's what allowed me to hear for the first time in a school, the Black National Anthem, and that's being put. So when you start to feel this pride in who you are as your people, you start to imagine, you start to see yourself to where you can see yourself in a place you never imagined before. You're talking about dreams. In my office, I have this painting, and it's not a painting, it's a picture, it's a poster, little young man sitting, said dream. That's been with me, Kafele, since I became a principal. It's been with me because I always want people to understand to dream big. We're afraid to dream, right? I say big, hairy, audacious goals. These dreams so big that it scares the mess out of you. And I think that when you start to get that mindset, Kafele, then you can start to think, right? I'm a Nike guy, so now it's just do it. Why not? And then why not me? Why not you? And I've turned that mindset on. And you know what I got that mindset from, man? I was 40 years old. I turned 40 years old. I'm standing on the Eiffel Tower. I'm overlooking the Champs-Élysées in the City of Lights. My wife surprised me for their birthday and took me to Paris. And I started crying because I could not believe where I am. That my life has brought me to this point. And people know I was struggling with my dissertation because it was a writing aspect, struggling with that. And in that moment, brother, that moment changed my life. I went from doubting myself to believing, why not me? Because I'm in the City of Lights in Paris. Why not me? Changed my whole mindset. Now I think I can accomplish anything. Now my motto is, if you can dream it, you can achieve it. If you believe it, you can achieve it. And so now I put things, and then the Bible even talks about casting your vision, right? The Bible talks about casting your vision, writing it down. So I think that if you look from a biblical standpoint, God has always said that you have it in your brain. And I put these visions in your mind, write them down, cast it. And you start to believe in yourself in that mindset, let me tell you, it just changed everything about you. So that's why now I feel that I can be a president of university, right? And being a non-traditional president, I didn't go through the normal route. I didn't go through faculty, through dean, through provost, right? I went straight from K to 12, Commissioner of Education, to president of university. So I skipped a lot of spots, right? I jumped the line. But the one thing that I can say, that I'm a leader. And that's what you preach. I'm a leader. So it doesn't matter what organization you put me in. If it's in education, I can lead that because I understand about leadership and what we do. And I think that allows me to not have the imposter syndrome. It allows me to sit in rooms with folks who are splitting atoms and studying quantum physics to be able to sit and say, that means nothing, but can you lead?
Love it. Love it. You know, of everything you said, what jumped out at me most relative to the question, 3 words, why not me? Right? So to somebody out there in the fam, why not you? And I don't mean you in terms of elevating to the next level. I mean you in terms of evolving into the greater you, right? Why not you, right? Despite whatever is inhibiting you from being that, which takes me to my next question, the politics. As a principal, superintendent, commissioner, and probably even university president, I shouldn't say probably, and university president, one has to be adept at navigating the politics that are so omnipresent and inherent in leadership. It's just there. You know, it's something that we don't particularly learn in grad school. Maybe some places we do, but I know I didn't. I had to figure out the politics once I got there. Sometimes I went against the politics, and that's okay for me. But other places, you know, you learn how to navigate it. So my question to you, or my ask of you, is to talk to the fam out there about the challenge of navigating politics, where they navigate it. It's inherent in their role, but they survive it as opposed to the politics do them in.
Well, so it goes to political acumen, and that should be a standard, right? That in any leadership training, political acumen should be a standard, because the reality is the minute you step into an administrative role, it's politics. And when you say, I don't play politics, you lose the game.
Yeah.
You lost. Because a lot of folks say this, Brother Kafele, oh, I don't play politics. Man, stop it. How the hell you get that promotion?
Yeah.
Right? Because sometimes these things are very subjective, right? And it's who you know. So when people say I don't play politics, that's BS, right? Because if you don't play politics, then guess what? You're going to get played. Simple as that. So you actually have to rely less on your IQ and more on your EQ. And we don't really stress a lot about emotional intelligence, right? We don't. And I think that right there gives you those social cues to allow to understand politics. So that's what I coined it, Kafele. It's politics.
Yeah.
And when you understand that it's politics, do you know sometimes that you have to be a magician? And you have to sometimes figure your way out. You have to, and then that's where the strategy comes in, and that's what intentionality. So when I talk about my book, Leadership by Design, it's being intentional, right, in your leadership. And so when you're intentional, you can start the strategy or create a strategy to actually play the politics. Find out who the major players are. Learn their strength. Look at the policies in which they're pushing, right? Find it exactly even on your own board. And this is relevant to find your own board, because that's where the politics start, on your own board, right? And some folks don't understand how to navigate that, and they get themselves caught up. So you have to be able to be smart enough to understand the board president, the board chair, right? Because that's where the true politics starts, when you're an administrator, right? Not the superintendent, it's the board. So those who are governing, those who are in charge, so identify who the real power is. Does the real power lie within the superintendent, or the real power lies within the board?
Yeah.
And how do you understand that there's levels, right? If you're a principal, you're a superintendent, there's levels above you. So you don't automatically have to deal with that. You have to understand, do I go around the superintendent, discreetly? Or do I address it and stay in that lane, right? Because at the end of the day, though, man, if you don't understand how to navigate politics, it's challenging. So how do you navigate politics? You understand the landscape. You must understand the terrain, right? You must assess the terrain. Know who the major players are. Know who the major political players are, meaning the politicians, the legislators, right? Know the policies that's going to have a direct impact on what you do. So become more policy savvy. And that's another thing that we don't do, understanding policy. Because understanding policy, you know how to navigate that, because some policies, like anything, it's always going to have ways where you can get around the policy. You just got to read it enough and understand it to know that, right? So you assess the terrain, the individuals, strategize, and come up with a plan of how you're going to accomplish. So you must be goal-oriented. Because if you're walking around blindly doing things without a strategy, without a goal, then you're going to get played. Right? And understand this. Think about the political aspect. I say this to my people who I mentor, my friends. It's 3D chess. You're playing 3 chessboards. So listen here, fam. You're playing 3 chessboards. You're playing your future, your past chessboard, your current chessboard, and your future chessboard. Right? And the past is over, right? But you have to, so you really can't control the past, but you can work on this present to understand the different roadblocks and challenges I have within the past. I'm going to level the playing field, level set now. And then understand your actions, what you do today will have a ripple effect within the future. So who you burn, who you deceive, who you play may come back to you if that person moves up that ladder. Your own colleague that you're going with, moving, how you burn, if you burn that individual, it goes back to values-driven leadership. And you talked about in your book, the values, right? So understand, watch how you play with your own peers that's moving in the system with you, because they may move above you.
That's right.
Right? And then understand that. So understanding that it's all strategy, it's all intentional, right? And the book talks about winning hearts and building a culture. Understand, how do you win hearts now? How do you win enough hearts so people will defend you in a room that you're not in? And that's how you play with the politics, being strategic, being intentional, assessing the terrain, and understand how you conduct yourself as a person, your values. Because all of that, and then when you start to see on this present board that you're playing in, this chessboard you're playing in, you now can start to predict the future. Because if I do X, Y, and Z here, if I lay the foundation here, I know that in the future I'm gonna reap the benefits of that. So for me, it's always been strategic, man. Always been strategy, and that using your EQ. And if you don't know EQ much, go out there and learn more about it, because the IQ can get you somewhere. You can pass a test, you can be all IQ, but EQ gets you to that level. EQ allows you to go in a room to assess. EQ allows you to read people and to understand things, right? And to allow to predict. That's what EQ allows you to do.
Woo, you gave a lot, and there's so much more. We could do a whole session just on this alone, because there's so much there. Let me give you my takeaway. Fam out there, hear me well. As I inserted into the question, there are politics there, whether you know them or not, but we don't necessarily learn them in grad school, right? So now you learn all you did in grad school, all you do in PD, professional development, your conferences, your books, you read, everything else, right? Podcasts, and you name it. But now you're in the building. That's a whole new level of learning, because what the grad school couldn't teach you was the specificity of the people in your building, the specificity of the parents, the specificity of the community, including the activists in the community, the specificity of the board members, the specificity of central office. The specificity of the press, right? So they couldn't have told you all that, because they don't have that information. So you can't, like Dr. Repollet just said, you can't go in there talking about I don't play politics, because politics don't play you, right? So now you've got that next tier of learning that you didn't get before you got there, that you got to learn all those moving parts. Because if you don't, you can't survive it. You're not going to survive it, because you don't understand what's happening, right? So it's thick, it's real, it's in your face, it's behind the scenes. Sometimes you don't even know what's going on. You don't know who's related to who. All these different things. Politics. You don't realize the teacher you're going after is the board president's kid's sister, right? So, so it's so much there, y'all. Right? So you gotta learn how to navigate that. No PD class, no graduate school class can give you that specificity, because they don't have access to the players. So your eyes got to be wide open, your ears got to be wide open, and then some intuition has got to be working there as well. I love everything you said, man. That's it. That's a whole session. Maybe that's your next book, right? Navigating the politics of education, man, because it's real. Let's go. I got a couple more, and then we go to the talking points you sent me. But you know, every time I bring a guest, I ask them, send me these talking points, and then a lot of my guests I don't get to them, right? But I'm gonna get to them for you. Hey, Dr. Repollet, there are countless assistant principals out here. There are more assistant principals, as you know, than there are principals. Mm-hmm. There are so many out here who are frustrated. And in terms of this question, the frustration lies in the fact that they know what they want to do. They know their talent. They know their skill set. But as I say to APs all over America, you are in large part who your principal allows you to be. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times it's not allowance in terms of principal making a decision, this is what I want. And in large part it's because this is all the principal knows. So principal may be limited. And in my mind as principal, well, an AP is in fact a disciplinarian, a cafeteria duty person, an inventory clerk, you know, all these kinds of things. So therefore my question is about the assistant principal, but it's not, but the answer is not for the assistant principal. I want you to speak to principals out there about how do we utilize assistant principals correctly so that we maximize their skill on the instructional side of leadership?
That's a great question, because you know we sat in those seats.
Yeah.
And so we can draw in from our lived experiences, right? And for all these APs, assistant principal, vice principal out there, I understand, right? If you're an American male, they automatically pigeon you for discipline, right? If you're black and brown, you're a male, and you God forbid you big, I'm going to hire you for disciplinary, right? And some of us come in because school districts identify us for a need that they have, but that's okay. Because you need to have an entry point, a demarcation, a starting point to get into that. But your current role does not define you. Your actions define you. So you have to do your responsibilities, whatever your job description is, you do that and you do that well. However, you start to reimagine what that position is, and you start to create your own. Because once you start to do your roles and responsibilities and accomplish that, then you start to add on incrementally. Keyword, not all at once. You don't bombard, especially, so I mentioned something about learning the terrain. So that means you have to understand who your principal is. You got to identify his needs, and you start to fill those gaps. Because if you do a SWOT analysis, I always say, I do a SWOT analysis. Every administrator above me, as our subordinate superior, I did a SWOT analysis of that person. I knew their strengths, their weaknesses, and I knew the threats to them. And then I identified opportunities for me to fill in those gaps, so that person can see that I am a value add to his team, his or her team. So that's what assessment's all about for me. So that's the advice I'm gonna give you, is that study your target, right? Understand, find ways to where you can fill in those gaps. Reimagine what you're doing by still doing your job, and continue to learn. Because if the person above you is modeling a way that doesn't have values that match your values, then you understand that from a value standpoint, you won't gain from that. And so principals out there, you know how hard it is to become a principal. Don't hate. Right? Don't stop someone's blessings. Be a blessing to others, and mentor and train that person to take your job. I said it, to take your job. Mm-hmm. Because the problem is, we as principals get comfortable. We want to be the HNIC. We want to be the only one. And we get complacent, right? And when you get complacent, you don't grow. But when you're challenging someone below you to take your job, and they're hungry, that allows you to now to continue your growth and your skill sets. A, by mentoring them, and B, by understanding I have to get better because this person is learning politics, learning that, you know what? It may not make me look as if the person who I think I am, right? And so for me, understand as a principal, grow that individual, cultivate that individual to take your job because you want them to be able to go out and represent you. Because if you look at it from a standpoint, you're representing me. I look at my coaching tree now. I look at my folks. I'm proud of them because I can say I had a hand in their greatness. I had a hand in them being who they are. I had a hand in changing their trajectory, their lives. Yeah. And that's a plus. And that goes back to what God has in store for us, right? It's not to keep our talents to ourselves. It's to share these talents. It's to grow others and to lift as we climb.
Love it. Love it. You know, I want to stay with this theme of instructional leadership. I say, and if you disagree, I want to hear about it. Mm-hmm. I say that instructional leadership is probably the most challenging aspect of principal and assistant principal leadership in terms of its implementation in earnest with pre and post observation conversations in a formative fashion and the observation. So it's not easy work. But yet, let me give you this analogy. Mm-hmm. You have a Friday night football game in some public school district. And the team, so we'll focus on one team. The team is in the locker room. They're putting on their pads, they're putting on their uniforms, and they're getting themselves mentally ready for the game. It's time to go out onto the field. The coach reels them in for that final message. He gives them that message and said, let's get this win. They respond, let's go. And now they're about to march onto the field, except the coach says, wait, come back. I forgot to tell you something very important. They come back. The coach says, gentlemen, if you need me, head coach, or any of the assistant coaches, come back inside. Tell us what the concern is. We'll respond. And then you go back out there and you handle your business on that football field. So now while they're playing the game, there are no coaches on the sidelines at all. They're in the locker room, right? And they're there for the athletes if they need them when they come in. We've never seen that before. I don't think there's anybody in life that's ever seen anything like that. However, if you switch genres and place what I just said in a school, we see it every day. Because I call the school day game day. So there are 180 days of games, right? So on game day, the teacher becomes the athlete, right? So now you can have a teacher go a full 180 days less to the two formal observations and never see the head coach or the assistant coaches as it relates to instruction, right? So therefore now as a lead into my question, how do we take instructional leadership from the vantage point of Dr. Lamont Repollet? How do we take instructional leadership from out of the back seat of the car and put it up there in the driver's seat?
That's a great question. It's just a couple of things. First thing I think we need to talk about is creating a culture where that can happen, Baruti. I think, Kafele, when you create a culture of learning, then that's the beginning, right? Create a culture where folks in the classroom are not afraid to fail. They're not afraid to try things. They're not afraid to be innovative. Because see, sometimes we stifle innovation because we say, stick to this lesson plan. Don't deviate from this. Do Madeline Hunter's, lesson design and follow that script. And if you do that, then you're going to be great. However, if the culture is toxic, you're not going to get people taking risks. You're not going to get folks invested in students and parents. They're not going to really buy into what you're buying. Because if it's a toxic environment, there's no specific goals and there's no vision and there's probably no values in that school. It's a wild, wild west because everybody is in their own fiefdom, in their own silos, and they're saying, well, Hakeem's in his class. Well, he's acting up, but that's not my class. That's Harriet's class. That's just Joe's class. That's Joe Rafinski's class, right? Hey, Joe, shout out to you, Joe. But when you have a culture, when you believe that people are the greatest asset in your organization, right? Then you start to be able to say, hey, we're gonna have learning, but this learning, this is the why. This is the why we're doing this. And then we're going to have sustained professional development. And then we're going to have instructional rounds that are meaningful, that will give you positive, constructive feedback and also constructive feedback. Because sometimes we give the positive and we don't say the great things that are happening in the classroom, right? And then you start to get people wanting to buy into getting themselves better. Why? Because if you're better, then the byproduct of you being an effective instructor, students will learn. Use data to tell the story. Use data to paint a picture for our students, right? Know who your students are. I always say assess, create, and execute. That's my acronym. Everyone knows me on my team, know ACE, right? Assess the situation, create a plan, and execute the plan. So if you're creating this culture, you have to model the way as well. You have to go to professional development principal, right? You can't sit there on PD day and tell people what to do, and they know you're not engaged with them, you're not involved, and you're just sitting in your chair, and they know you back in your office, and they know that you don't go back to school to better yourself. You don't do anything. So why should they do that? Because you aren't doing it, and so they can sit back. That's the environment and that's the culture. So if you create a culture of learning, this will allow folks to be innovative, to take risks, to be able to get engaged and be able to go outside the box. Because plenty of times, so Model Hunters is great. I use that framework. That's great. But sometimes you got to go outside the box to get their attention, to get them. You have to understand that this generation of students are different, right? They're different because they use the compute. They use the phone as a computer, right? As a device, right? And these kids are multitasking, wired to do multiple things where we're not, right? And so the biggest thing for you as an administrator, as a leader, as an aspiring administrator, it goes back to whether you have that classroom, creating an environment of learning in that classroom by giving positive feedback to those students who are doing well, and also some things, and have some conversation with the students and give them the why. And then you go from the build, from the classroom to the building level to the district level.
Love it. I love it. Love it. I'm looking at the time. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to switch over to.
Well, look, Kafele, we don't get together too often like this. And let me tell you, I love leadership and I love coaching leadership. So we have time, man. Don't even worry, but we have time.
All right. Well, I'll tell you what, let's do this. Flash that book on the screen for me and let them know how they can get it.
Leadership by Design is on Amazon.
Slide it the other way. No, just move in the opposite direction. Yeah, so because okay, there you go.
Okay, Leadership by Design, Winning Hearts, Building Your Brand, Achieving Success, is not your typical leadership book, to be honest with you, because I'm not typical. I'm a typical leader. Right. I'm authentic. I do it my way, but I'm very strategic and intentional in what you do. So the title Leadership by Design is intentional because I think that you have to design your future that you want to create, design your classroom you want to create, design your school you want to create. And when you start to design those things there, you start to win hearts, right? So the first thing you got to go back to culture is winning hearts, right? Winning hearts in your brand. So as you start to win hearts, people are watching you and they're watching your brand. So we know that Kafele for years have been doing this mentoring for years. So the brand is there, right? And so when you start to do things that you're doing in the community, Kafele, that's outside the work you're doing, you're winning hearts by going around the country. When you start to marry the two, right? And you add the third strand. So the first strand is winning hearts. The second strand is building your brand. The third strand is achieving success. Now, real quick, I talked about this being a book of faith. So this is not just for leadership, but also for life, right? So this book was based off Ecclesiastics, the three strands, how interwoven in 3 strands can be stronger, right? So I'm looking at your leadership can be stronger and will be stronger when you add winning hearts, building your brand, and achieving success. But the key here is that success is not measured by quantitative measurements, right? It's measured also by qualitative measurements. It's about your legacy. It's about how you growing the next generation. That's success. Because success, anything that you do within an educational ecosystem for the students, that you help support them and surround them, that's success. So when you add winning hearts, building your brand, and you add that success mindset, right, of legacy, then you start to have this strand that comes together that's not easily broken. And see, that's all biblical.
Yeah.
That's all your faith. And so as I look at leadership, leadership shouldn't be broken because, and I say this, a charismatic leader should not come into a school if it's done right, right? Build this environment, this culture. And the minute that person leaves, it starts to crumble. That cord, those strands are easily broken. But when you actually set up your successor, right? The person, remember, tell the person that you want to take the job. Like I had Dr. Gray in Asbury Park, right? She followed me. That's that, and that, you know, Dr. Gray worked for you, so we have that commonality. Understanding when she left, when I left, I felt comfortable because she understood that she's going to continue those cords and continue strengthening them. And when I left, she held it together. She added her pieces to it, and that's in the book. It's called Cathedral Thinking. When you build something that's going to last, you're not only going to see that, but however you build a legacy. She started adding passion to it. I had rebuild, retool, restore. She added passion and purpose, right? And so that allowed her to take the foundation and the basis of what we've done and add that to her own level, her next iteration. So leadership design is about iterations of leadership that will continue to stand the test of time. And this stuff here, this book has a lot of my secret sauce, a lot of things I've done, like the crystal ball effect. But you guys go out and get it. You can get it on Amazon.
We're break all that down. But tell them, we're going to break all that down in a minute, but tell them how they can get it.
Right, you go to Amazon right now. It's actually, I'm very pleased. I'm in good company with you, Kafele. It's on Amazon. It's the #1 new release. It was a bestseller for education administration for the last week. So I'm excited about that as well. So Amazon, you can go to Rutledge, to the publisher directly. You can Google Leadership by Design, Lamont Repollet, and my co-author, Robin Landon. It'll come up. There's a bunch of sites you can get it. Barnes & Noble online. You can go to Booktopia. It's a lot of places, but I would recommend that you go to Amazon. And then I would also let you, please leave a review, because I want to hear from you. Like Kafele here's right. I want to hear exactly what you think, because there will be another edition, whether it's this edition, whether the next iteration, or some other combination, because I think that this tool, it's a tool. And in this book here, it has a executive summary, chapter summary, and has reflection questions that you can use for professional development or workshops as well. So we made it as kind of a book that you can a la carte, pick chapter. You don't have to read the whole book in its entirety in the order in which you're given. Find a chapter that you're interested in and pick it out and learn from that.
And let me say to the fam out there, for those of you that are not aware, those comments and those stars matter, right? They matter. And I want to caution you as well, because this happens to me. Sometimes Amazon may ship a book and they did shoddy work and the cover got bent, right? Or damaged in some way. And then they'll go on my page and give me a 1 star, right? So it happened to me very recently, but I was able to find this woman on social media. This person, I said woman now, but I was able to find this person on social media. She was shocked I found her, and I said, do me a favor, because she wrote in the comment why she gave me the 1 star. The book being damaged has nothing to do with me, right? So I said, do me a favor. I will send you a book. She said, no, I went on and reordered. I said, okay, do me another favor. Go back to Amazon page, delete that negative comment you wrote, and the 1 star, because it's not a reflection of what I wrote. It's a reflection of Amazon, but you put that on my page. So y'all be careful with that, because as authors, we want to be able to move our books, but when you put those 1 and 2 stars, then it slows the movement of the book. And I was just lucky that I could find this person to get that removed, because the book I'm talking about has all 5 stars, right? So that's all it had, and then that one was a blemish. So keep that in mind as well. Hey, Doc, I want to ask you something based on everything you just said before I get to your talking points, because we got time. That principal that led the effort in putting in the right systems, the right structures, the right processes, and thereby the achievement is happening. But now the principal moves on, and I ask you this because you served as a superintendent, and now the superintendent who hires along with the board this new principal gives this principal the leeway, the flexibility to unravel everything that was in that building that was working, so that this now new principal can start over under the premise that they wanted the principal to establish his or her own thumbprint on the school. I'm not infusing my opinion on that. I want to hear what you have to say.
Then that means that the board president and the superintendent, they don't have a clue. Right? They don't understand leadership. One, you don't throw out the baby with the bathwater, right? You assess, right? You find out things that's working. You find out things that you can improve on, but you only do that by looking at the data. And then from there, filling those gaps. Because the tradition and norms that was placed within that school under the previous principal is working. Now, if your leadership style is different, then you're going to start to unravel that on your own. You're going to get folks that have taste success. And sometimes we don't want to hear our failures, or we don't want to hear areas, I'm not going to say failures, we don't want to hear areas of improvement. And see, that goes back to your personal values. That goes back to who you are. But the thing about it, you have to assess the landscape. I say that a lot, man. Assess, assess, assess. Because sometimes we assume that something is working, or something we assume something's not working. Not rooted in data, in fact, but based on assumptions because someone told you something, right? And that goes back to that subjectivity, that goes back to that. And so for those principals, those superintendents, understanding that you have a school, because now you go back to the people, because it wasn't just that dynamic principal, it was the dynamic faculty and staff. It was those incredible students that bought into what the principal was trying to tell them, bought into the vision and mission of that school, right? And that person's brand, they aspire, and they knew that they can take risks. They knew that our kids are going to be okay because they understood that access was important, equity is important. They understood that, you know what, let me look at the lunch and realize that, you know what, do I bring breakfast in the morning to the students? Because I'm losing time within the time for breakfast, but at instructional time. So do I bring it to them? So sometimes I always say to my team, go where the puck is, right? Wayne Gretzky scored goals, and he said, I scored a lot of goals because I went where the puck was. And so when you have a principal who's dynamic, it's not just him. He's the leader, yes, but other folks bought into the system. And that goes back to the culture. And you have to reward them and respect them and go to them and say, what is it that you want in your next leader, right? Assess, find out what it is, and then have those conversations. Because I'm going to tell you, when that principal comes in the building and those norms are set and there's success in place, and you start to change the system, change regulations, right? Change norms, and things start to unravel, you won't be there long. Because winning hearts is about those students, parents rallying to say, enough is enough. Our kids were succeeding, our kids are doing well, and now they're not. They're going to go to a board meeting and complain. They will, because you created that environment to where they had a say. There was collaboration amongst the faculty and staff, right? You allowed the faculty and staff to work with the unions to accomplish things you need to accomplish, right? To get those common wins that you can get from one another. You've had parents engaged as part of the community. You might have been in the community, right? And people saw you. And so the system will speak. The institution will speak because the institution is bigger than one person.
Good stuff. I appreciate that. Let's go to those talking points. You probably touched on all of them, but let's see what we could do here. The first one was leadership as I got the wrong one up. Hang on. Here we go. Leadership as design. You argue that leadership isn't something that leaders improvise. It's something that they must intentionally design. So the question becomes, what does it mean to think like a chief architect rather than a reactive manager, especially in moments of crisis or uncertainty? This is a big one. Leaders out there, aspiring principals and established principals, but also people at the central office level all the way up to superintendent. Pay attention to this answer, y'all. This is a big question.
Well, I think the key thing is leadership by design. It's just administer leadership by design, and see, some folks are great leaders, right? Meaning they have leadership qualities, right? They have the ability to inspire people to move, right? They have the organizational skills and detail enough to find ways. However, those are different aspects. So sometimes in leadership, I say this right now, when your best laid plans fail, what are you going to do? Right? And so, but when you design your leadership based off forecasting what will happen, based off of the future, based off of what's occurring nationally in the news, in the politics and the policies, right? Then you start designing ways to be able to ensure that your school, your students are still successful. So there's iterations to leadership that I want people to understand. That's why we talk about the design aspect of it, because there's politics, there's instructional leaders, there's curriculum instruction, there's parent engagement, there's community involvement. So all of these different things, you have to think on how you're going to address them authentically your way, right? Because it goes back to understanding this. If you don't have a plan in place, then you might get played, right? And that's why I think it's important. So it's some folks can improvise on the fly, but not everyone can, right? Not everyone can. So one of the things I talk about, when you actually design stuff, you can start to win hearts and build your culture, right? And so I think for us, this book is just about how can you become the chief architect, right? How can you sit there and create this environment? Because what you're doing is that you are creating, whether you're in a classroom, you're creating an environment. And you talk about that one of the things you tell me, write it down. Is it a proper place?
Yeah.
So you're creating a proper place. But if you go in and just go on the fly, I got the job and I got the title and I'm just going to go in and just wing it, I can guarantee you that you're not creating a proper place.
That's right.
And so that's why the leadership of design is important, because I want people to understand that leadership is intentional. And if you don't think it's intentional, then guess what? It's going to become irrational.
Mm-hmm. You know, it's interesting, the whole language that you're using here, because, you know, I'm just wired maybe a little bit different than other people, not in a good way. Just, you know, we are who we are. So I'll pass a building under construction somewhere. Like I live in Jersey City, so they're all over the place, and to a fault. So I'll see this building going up. Mm-hmm. My mind goes back to the architectural work. It always does. It goes back, probably because I talk about blueprints and strategy and all that kind of stuff so often, but it goes back there. I'm always thinking about the people that drew those plans, right? And what that may have looked like. And then when the building is up and running, I'm frequently thinking about the man and woman power that went into constructing it. So in other words, wherever a building is in the process, I'm always thinking about the stage behind, right? It's the weirdest thing. My wife knows that I'm complete, and now you all will know I'm completely fascinated by Madison Square Garden. I always have been since I was a kid, and I continue to be. We go to a lot of Knicks games, and when we start approaching the building, I say to my wife, "Man, look at it, man. Just look at it." She's looking at me like I'm crazy. Just look at that building, right? So here's my point. Let me read the part that I don't have on the screen again. You argue that leadership isn't something leaders improvise. It's something they must intentionally design. See, that's where I'm going. So there's this designing phase. So I guess what I'm doing is I'm asking the fam out there who are watching, or the ones who will see the video later, do we bring that mindset of designing? Designing is not on the spot improvisation. It takes time. And I'm just asking us, based on what Dr. Rep wrote, is that you? Right? So, and as he said, there's a stark difference between the two, right? So what does it mean, therefore, to think like a chief architect? Ooh, I mean, we could do the whole session just on this, fam.
Yeah.
Rather than a reactive manager. Those are two very different people, especially in moments of crisis or uncertainty. Imagine there's a crisis and now you improvising, as opposed to we already had it in place. Before I'm gonna turn this back over to you, Doc, but let me just say this thing real quick. I remember once I became a high school principal that we doing all these emergency drills. And I said, but I'm gonna use an old P-Funk term, Parliament Funkadelic, but we were faking the funk on that, man. Let me tell you what I mean by that. We were doing all those code reds during periods before lunch and after lunch. I said, well, what if the gunman comes in while they eating lunch? And at the change of periods, going to the cafeteria, so kids are at their locker, and then the ones who are already there and it's already spilled tomato sauce, applesauce. I said, are we ready for that? And the answer was no. So I said, all right, I got to come up with a plan where I can make this full cafeteria with food and trays on the table disappear in 60 seconds, including the students. Let me tell you something. We did that. But that's because I was that chief architect. I didn't use that language. I got that from you, right? I was that chief architect, as opposed to let's just try a code red and see what happens when they're in the cafeteria. That would be a mess, right? What's your thoughts on that?
No, I mean, I think you hit it right there, right? When your plans, best laid plans, don't work, what are you going to do? Now, you can improvise for that moment, but the probability is far less the success you're going to have if you're intentional about understanding that. And so one is more reactionary, intentional is being proactive. And you said that, and thinking through different problems. So leadership by design, the beauty of this is that my co-author is a design and branding expert, has taught this distinguished professor in that field. And one of the things about design is design thinking, right? And so leadership at times become a design thinking problem because there's a challenge. So you just had a challenge, and now you must think about all these different things that can occur for you to get out for you to achieve your challenge. And so when you start to be proactive and intentional in your purpose, then the probability of you succeeding or you achieving that challenge or that goal is far greater. Will it work? We don't know until it happens, right? That's theory versus practicality versus reality, right? You don't know, but in theory, it says if you design this, if you have this in place, you have a plan in place, then that should work. But the reality is, as you said before, though, what happens if a bomb scare or if an intruder comes in, a gunman comes in during lunch? Yeah. Then guess what? You're going to do what you're going to improvise. Your natural instincts will kick in, and when you all said and done, when you do an after action report, you're going to realize that I could have saved more lives. Yeah. You're going to realize that things could occur if I if I anticipated that. So when you talk about that anticipation, that's the design that goes into design. You can anticipate, and it should not be done, this intentionality or this purpose or this design should not be done in isolation. It should be done in collaboration, and everyone should have an understanding of it. And it should be iterations of that. And so when I say about leadership by design, it's being intentional, it's being purposeful, right? And it's also being anticipatory.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Tell us about the story about when you were principal with the pep rally.
So let me tell you this, and that goes what you said, right? And so I lead off the book with the introduction that starts with me in a real life scenario. And that was the day, at the all said and done, I realized that winning heart. So I was appointed the principal of Carteret High School. I'm a graduate of Carteret High School, alum of Carteret High, and the first Black principal of Carteret High. My grandmother was the first Black teacher in Carteret School District. And so me going back was wonderful. However, there was, in order for me going from the principal to the principal of the elementary school to high school, I had some battles that I fought, right? Because I feel what is right and wrong, and I'm always going to go what I think what is right. And sometimes you lose a battle, sometimes you don't, but I won this battle in regards to what is right. And so that didn't leave me a lot of some folks on the faculty side, you know, when you battle unions at times, didn't leave me as a popular person. So here I am coming back to my high school, first Black alum. And so we had this pep rally planned. And I'm excited because it's in my school. I remember sitting in those chairs and those bleachers, and I had the band play, getting excited. We had everyone in the gym. Lo and behold, we had a damn fire in the gym. We had an electrical fire, storm electrical fire. We had to stop that. Now, what was intentional plan is that our evacuation plan said we need to go to the stadium. So we moved everyone to the stadium. And to my mind, it was about safety. I wasn't thinking about anything else, getting those kids to a safe environment because we didn't know. So we got everyone from the gym to the stadium. However, someone said to me along the way, one of the faculty members, "What you gonna do now, Rep?" As if your plan that you had did not go and it failed. What are you gonna do now? We're watching you. So to me, it was like, we're watching you. So that went from a mindset of, okay, I see you, challenge on. So I got to the stadium, everyone was safe and secure. And I said, well, in my head, well, damn, let's have this pep rally here. Pouring rain, Kafele, pouring. I'm on a 50-yard line with a microphone. And I stood there and said, I stood on this field and watched this team play rain, sleet, and snow. I'm a rambler. I graduate. I bleed blue. So rain is not going to stop what we do. Right? Can you stand the rain? That's a New Edition thing. Can you stand the rain? I said, because rainbows only occur after a storm, after a rain. And so I gave this passionate speech about being a rambler, about inspiring. And I said, now, cheerleaders, take your rightful place next to me. They came out there in the rain. I said, Coach, bring the team back here, make those announcements because we got a big game coming up and we want to make sure our students are fired up. Coach came out there. And I said to the band director, you know that song I love? It's that Star Wars rendition. Dun, 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 dun. The band played that, the drums played that, boom, dun. Everyone came out, man, and we had a pep rally in the damn rain. What I saw was firemen standing outside in the rain, watching, because they're ramblers too, they're homegrown. I had the police officers, I had the faculty and staff. No one thought about the rain.
Wow.
We were in that moment. And when I got back to my office, this young 35-year-old first Black principal, remember 35 principal of a high school, Black principal, first Black, coming in and saying, I walked in into a standing ovation, right? And they said, we have never seen anything like that before. This was the best pep rally that I've been engaged in. And I had phone calls, cheerleaders coming, everyone had soaking on. We were all soaked to the bone.
I bet.
Right. But the idea that the rain, that the challenge did not stop us. Right. And that's being resilient and creative during crises. But we had a plan. And when I got back, that's when I realized that strategy trumps, culture trumps strategy.
Yeah.
Bill Daggett.
Yeah, that's right.
Because that was the day that I realized about winning hearts.
Wow.
That was the day that they didn't see me as the 18-year-old senior that graduated Carter High School, that was an athlete with 2 state championships and most popular in high school. They didn't see that. They saw a leader. And that was the day that the mindset shifted from that high school boy to a grown man leading this high school. That was the day I won hearts. And so to me, it's important that we win hearts along the way, because when you start to win hearts, you start to create a sense of people wanting to follow you, right? To take pride in you, right? You be able to, because they know that you're going to inspire them. So they look at you. And then I had to start to build my brand within that school, not my other schools, but within the high school. They started to see that, well, does his actions match his rhetoric?
Yeah.
So, and that's why I talk about values, chapter 2, values-driven leadership. That's me, values-driven. I lead with values. And then I'm gonna tell you, man, we've had success in the high school. We went on and had USA News, just like your high school, USA News, world ranked best high schools in the country. Test scores, we haven't, as a high school principal, I can honestly, I've never failed the New Jersey standardized test.
Wow.
Because everyone bought into the system, they bought into the brand, and it goes those strands, those chords, and we started having success. So I said before, the strand, the third chord is intentional to be there last, because you should not go in there thinking about success and using it as a metrics to measure how you're going to create an environment, how you're going to be intentional. It should be the byproduct of a culture you create, winning hearts, a byproduct of the brand you create, your values and your institution, and how you match those values, how people trust your values. And then once you put them together, then you're going to have sustained leadership, where the next iteration is going to it's going to be too hard to unravel because those chords are intertwined together. That's in that book right here.
Yeah. Amazon, y'all. Go to Amazon, get your copy right now. If you're on Chrome, you can just go to another tab and order your copy. Prime, it'll be there by tomorrow or Monday, right? So no, it won't. It'll be there soon, because my copy won't be until the.
But you know why? You know why? Because I think they underestimated the power of the people. So I think they only copied. So far, we've actually sold 1,000 copies.
Yeah, that happens
since Wednesday. So for me, understand that the book is moving. So now they don't have. I mean, we've tried to call Rutledge to get more copies and ASAP, but they're pushing them.
That's what happened with me with ASCD multiple times, man. I'm on here promoting before it releases, and then it releases. They sell out the same day, and now I got to do with ASCD, So yeah, but that's it's part of the work, but that's a good thing. You'll get them, folks. So order today. So you obviously you talked about this. So let me just put the formal structure up. Winning hearts, and you indicated that in the book you emphasize that leadership begins with winning hearts, as you said, not just delivering results. So the question becomes, why is emotional connection foundational to effective leadership, and how have you seen this principle play out in your own career? I don't know if there's anything you want to add to that, or maybe we already.
No, I do want to add that, because one of the things on my cover letter for years, and those who that's on here that I may apply in your district, I always said that people are the greatest asset in any organization. And that was a quote, anonymous quote that I found online that resonated with me. One other thing was that, seeds of change cannot occur and could not grow in toxic soil. So those two things kind of stood up with me. And it goes back to that humanistic approach. It goes back to being student-centered. If you're a teacher, and a leader, people-centered, right? And so I think when you understand that, those connections you have with people, because at the end of the day, though, people want to be led by someone that they trust to blindly lead them, right? To lead them, because sometimes we give these mission and vision statements that they'll never see, but they have to believe the person who is actually drawing up these plans that will move them in the direction they're going. And they may not agree with the whole thing, but they trust you enough to understand that his heart is where it is. We know where he's going with that. We're going to just figure it out. We're going to find a way. And we got a chapter called Cathedral Thinking, where you building some things that you won't see, like a cathedral church, right? When they built the church back in the day, they knew that they weren't going to see this church, because back in the day, those cathedrals, it took years, decades, and sometimes even a century to build this. Yeah. But they built it with the understanding that the legacy in which the intention of what they designed will be there. They built enough to where folks can actually add to these iterations. They built enough to where it's organic and it'll grow with that. And so I think when you're talking about people needed to have those connections, right? Because if you look, I'm a big Maslow guy, right? So one of the chapters called Secure the Base. It's really about Maslow hierarchy needs. Mm-hmm. Because if you're talking about taking care of man's basic needs, the physiological needs, food, clothing, shelter, and I add education there. And then from there, but now you have teachers, right? They have food, clothing, shelter, they're fine. But when you allow them to be able to collaborate, when you allow them to be able to get with their peers, to have joint shared decision making, right? Collaboration in the process. And when you create a strategic plan, are you involving the folks who are going to be the ones that be impacted by that strategic plan? Yeah. Right. And so that's where the human-centered approach, that's where the people-centered approach comes into play. And you have to understand that, because once you understand that they are the greatest asset in your organization, then you'll start designing a culture that allows them to grow, right? And not create a toxic environment where they won't grow, and those seedlings will not have the ability because they'll be in toxic soil.
Talk to us about how does that translate when you hear somebody say, like when we talk about school culture and in this case, students, and they say, man, but our students, this environment and our students have some real challenges, and thereby we're always handling discipline. How does everything you just said relate to creating a culture where the children are engaged in behaviors which we would expect them to, as opposed to the ones that keep us frustrated?
So it goes back to creating that one of the first things we talked about, the culture of learning, right? It goes back to that instructional leadership. I'm giving an example of our friend, dear friend, Dr. Sancha Gray, the College of Education. She partnered and we created. I'm gonna give an example of how the students engage in their learning. We created these learning walls, these data walls, and we had our students go and look at their data to be a part of that. So it goes back to having them be a part of, right? Shared decision making. In this case, was having a chance to say, exactly, this is where you are, this is where you are. And people start to see these students got so engaged with where they are that they automatically, goes back to what you said with Carter G. Woodson. They are in their mind, because the culture was created for them to succeed, for learning, that they automatically created their own path to grow, right? They created their own back door, right? In this case, their front door. They create their own door, right? Because we created a space where they believed in themselves. That's the self-concept, and that goes back to understanding that that deficit thinking, that you can't learn because you go to East Orange School District. You're in an urban school district. You can't learn because it's a Title I school district. And now it goes back to, you can learn if you believe in that. And I'm gonna meet you where you are. I'm gonna provide the resource for you, and I'm gonna build up that ecosystem around you, your family, your community, so they all can support you as you grow. Mm-hmm. And that's how you get students engaged, by having them have a seat at the table, giving them the why, right? And then showing them that you love them, right? And love don't mean like, oh, I gotta give you a hug and kiss. Show them that you care enough about them that you want them to start to design their own future, to see themselves as a doctor, as a lawyer, as something else, right? And start, as you said earlier, we started to dream. It starts with them dreaming. They have to believe it. And sometimes our kids come in so broken down and so jaded that the system, and we all know the educational system was not designed for Black and brown. It wasn't. And so how do we massage this system enough so we all can live and we all can grow?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. All right, let's keep moving. Where we at? Here we go. Leadership, brand, and trust. And you indicated here in my notes, leadership by design reframes personal branding as a leadership responsibility. rather than self-promotion. Let me say that to the fam again. Reframes personal branding as a leadership responsibility rather than self-promotion. So the question becomes, how can leaders, which is on the screen, fam, how can leaders intentionally shape a leadership brand that builds trust and credibility without feeling performative or transactional? It's another heavy duty piece. Let's hear what you got to say about that.
So I mean, one of the things that I've done very well is use branding and marketing simultaneously with my leadership to allow me to demonstrate to others who I am. And so sometimes when you have folks that are on social media that's branding themselves, they're doing a lot of self-promotion, right? But when you start to, one of the things we did in Asbury Park and I've done is that we started to show our students. We started branding our district. So when I walked into Asbury Park, I walked in with a hard hat.
Yeah,
right? That hard hat said rebuild, retool, restore. I call myself the chief architect, right? That was to brand who I am selfishly to get the job, right? Because you have to sell yourself to get a job. You have to allow them to see yourself in that seat. And I wanted them to see that I had a plan of action, I had a vision. And that vision, Kafele, was building a brighter future. You see, that was the brand, right? The personal brand was me trying to get a job. But for me, we started branding, building a brighter future. And we started we started giving our hard hats for folks who have demonstrated that they're part of Hard Hat Nation, a group of dedicated individuals committed to the well-being of our students to change the trajectory of their lives. We started giving that out there. So we started branding that, and we started showing video of and that's the crystal ball effect. We started showing video of what the district can be, right? What we believe it to be. And then we started working back from there. And so for me, branding is what is your vision and mission and how you're going to get there and what marketing tools you're going to get there. So we knew that Asbury Park at the time was not getting positive press. So we started to create our own narrative. And we use social media as a window into the work that we're doing. So we'd have PD sessions. We put PD sessions on there. We would have our students have success. We put in students in action. We put our students in action. We started showing images of verbs and action words versus noun, right? We want people to see that they're in action, always in action. And so that gets away from personal brand. But then from there, you are still cognizant that you have a brand and you're trying to build your district, but sometimes your brand might be at the time bigger than the district. And so you need to understand our core brand is about values, really, right? Your values. What do people, when they say Baruti Kafele, Principal Baruti Kafele, what do they say? That's your brand. When they say Dr. Lamont Repollet, president of King University, what do they say? Right? And what outcomes do you have to support your brand? And what outcomes do I have to support my brand? Right? And then your brand becomes that product. You become that product, right? Of who you are, your values, right? You become the product of your values. And that's when people start to sign, just like now, I'm a Nike guy through and through, right? But their whole mantra is just do it. And their product supports them just doing, always in action, right? And so that's the difference between you branding yourself, which you should brand yourself, versus bringing everyone else with you and branding your district along. And so, and that's all being intentional, right? I did all those things strategically, right? I thought about marketing and branding. I thought about the district. I thought about what people were going to say. I thought about the press. I thought about all the communities and how do you start to create a narrative that will give you the vision, right? That will show them the vision that they want. And that's called the crystal ball effect, and that's in the book too.
Let me ask you this question. I always make the distinction, and I've done it on this platform umpteen times, the distinction between brand identity and brand image. So brand identity is the brand that we craft for ourselves, right? But the brand image is the perception that
Mhm.
the outside public has of our brand. And
Mhm.
when they don't align, then our brand is what the public said we are, not who we claim to be. So my
Yes.
question to you for the fam, how do I sustain control over my brand identity so that my public, in this case my staff, see me the way I see myself?
So you need to make sure that there's
See
no.
something different. They ain't following me. They're following their perception of me.
Mhm. So you need to make sure that that brand is not incongruent
Mhm.
or right, and there's no difference between the two. And when you start to see that, you have to start to go back and say the why.
Yeah.
Why is it people seeing this? And it goes back, as I said before, it goes back to leadership by design, right? It goes back to success you have. It goes back to modeling, it goes back to value. So if you are projecting this image of being this great leader, but the people that you are in charge say otherwise because your actions don't dictate the brand in which you project, then that's when you're not going to have success. That's when your culture will start to break down. That's when people start to go into their silos and start to become their own fiefdom. So if your culture, and I go back to culture versus strategy, if the culture doesn't create the plan of action you have, which is your image you project to the folks, then guess what? That's the imbalance. So you have to always be mindful of the culture you create, right? Because the results that you have are going to be a byproduct of the culture you create. And then from there it's incongruent because guess what? You can't say that you're effective when people see otherwise. And so sometimes data can be skewed because when we inherited the work in Asbury Park, if I tell you that we create a hard hat nation, building a brighter future, and you saw that, but you look at our test scores, you sit and say, but damn, you were still at 20%. But if you can't tell the story, right, that you started out at 9%, right? And the people inside, they need to know that you've made those incremental gains because they need to have wins. They need to have success. And that's how you show that you move the needle. So you have to move the needle, right? But there's also long-term and short-term goals. There's also low-hanging fruit that demonstrates that you're moving in that path. So when I got to the point that Dr. Gray took over, she moved the needle. But when you have decades, right, of low achievement, decades of students reading below grade level, you have to find other metrics to highlight that you aren't moving the needle.
Yeah.
Such as graduation rate, right? Such as retention rates from year to year, right? Literacy levels, math levels, right? And so those surveys on how people feel, right? Satisfaction surveys, all right? So when you have those areas, detentions, reduction in suspensions, so when you start the HIBs, when you start to use all of those testing, non-assessments, those metrics, then you can start to tell the story that you are moving the needle, right? Yeah. Because you got to always start where I always say the demarcation is important. Tell everybody where you start.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then you can measure to where you leave.
That's important.
And if you're showing growth, then you've done the things you say you were going to do. But it goes back to that cathedral thinking, right? It goes back to, I'm not going to see the end of this road. I put it in place, and Dr. Gray took that space, and she took that cathedral and started doing other things too. But that's the second iteration and the third iteration. And you can find out through iterations, which is leadership, you can find out who was the weakest link within that chain. Because if they can't show the incremental growth, if they can't show what happened from those standardized assessments to move the needle, then guess what? That means that the foundation started to unravel a little bit.
Yeah.
Right? The culture started to unravel a little bit. People started not to trust one another, right? They couldn't understand the why. So when you have that imbalance between culture and strategy, which is your plan of action, your goals, right? Then you're going to see that you're going to have the difference between the image versus perception.
Powerful stuff. You're a wealth of information, wealth of leadership, knowledge for the fam out there. Let's do one more of these and then go to the rapid fire.
Okay.
I've been looking forward to this one, actually. Designing a leadership legacy. Looking beyond short-term metrics, how should leaders think about legacy? So you indicated here, what does it mean to design leadership that endures after your tenure ends and long after the immediate results fade? I know that you just touched on that, but if there was anything else you wanted to add to it.
No, I just think that I go back to what we talked about is, how do you define success? Right? And so how do you find, like here at Kane University, I actually said that Kane will be an elite school, but I made it very clear that my definition of elite is not Harvard's definition of elite. Because I was looking at things where our students' retention, graduation rates, right, the jobs that they receive, I was looking at those things, right? Because if you are an institution, why do people go to college? They go to college to get a job, to get a career, to change their lives, right? To better themselves. So if that's the case, then you do the best that you can do as an institution to ensure that they leave here better than when they came in. Inputs and outputs. Yeah. And what happens in between is your legacy, right? What happens in between is your definition of success.
Absolutely.
So understanding that when you're designing your school, your classroom, your school, your district, your state, right? That you keep people in mind, understand a humanistic approach, that you have value, you espouse values that people want to attach to. You create a culture in which they can be innovative, right? And then you start to see the success, right? Yeah. And then you start to cultivate those folks to go through from down to the bottom to self-actualization.
Yeah.
Then you start to put that together, and that becomes your legacy. That becomes the designing a legacy for you. Because when people say Lamont Repollet, what have he done at all levels? They can pretty much say this guy right here was who he's authentic, he's himself, he helped others, and he's all about them damn kids.
Yeah.
Right. And that's, so I built a legacy that has nothing to do with how many kids passed this test, right? That it was all about what, and so I go back to, I keep quoting Dr. Gray here because she was my partner for years in building the brand, right?
Yeah.
Right. And I called the assistant chief architect before she became the chief architect. Right. And so, because she sat in that table with me and we started designing what we want Asbury Park to be. And so when you start to do all those things, man, you start to leave a legacy behind where you start to have your coaching tree. Right. Because your legacy right here at the higher education level, I don't know if you thought about it, is Booker, me, and Sanchin. And it's not the case. So I can imagine the K-12 space you've done. Right. But you've built this legacy that says, this image, this brand that says that Kafele is all about the people. He's all about uplifting the people. And I want them to say the same thing, that Rep is about his people.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? He's about those students. And that's when you know that your legacy is defined not by metrics, but more by qualitative, more about how people feel, how you made them feel. Right? And that's what it's about.
I think about that word a lot. I thought about it when I was a practitioner in the building. But I also think about it a lot over these past 15 years of living out of a garment bag. What is the legacy? You know, it's just something that I think I'm obsessed by, you know, because it matters. You know, it's not an ego thing, as you said before. It's just it's a reflection of, all right, I was here, you know, whether it was long-term assignment or even short-term. But now, what is it about my visit here, my tenure here, that it still lives, you know? So I think about that a lot. But, you know, another thing I think about, I want to go back to Hassan he was either quoting you or this was what he was asking. Where's it? Here it is. Superintendent Hassan, what is your definition of success? And see, like for me, I'm one who creates definitions. I'll look at words in dictionaries and so forth, and then I'll say, I don't think I like it. Like equity, there's no universal definition. So I went on and created my own. So with success, I've been sharing with young people across the country for a very long time. I said, success means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. So for me, I said success is simply living one's own life on one's own terms, period. Assuming that we're talking about something positive. So let's look at the two of us real quick with that. As a teacher, I was living my life on my terms. I was in my class doing what I wanted to do. As a principal, I was living my life on my own terms. Got into trouble for doing it, but I'm still standing, right? And, yeah. So had a hiccup because I was living that definition, right? But we got it together. As a speaker, consultant, and author, I am most definitely living my life on my terms, right? As opposed to the terms of society, right? I said, I want to do this. I left that that six-figure paying job with the health benefits and stepped out into a career where I had no clients, right? And said, I'm going to build this and I'm going to do it my way. So I don't do it like a lot of my peers. They do it their way. I do it my way. I'm very vocal, for example, on social media about what I'm thinking about different things that happen in the world. Others are not going to do that because they're scared it may affect their bottom line. So I'm going to do it my way, so thereby living my life on my terms. So I'm saying all that to say this. I appreciate Haas saying that, putting that in his comment, that when I talk to young people, I want them to have that kind of vision, right? That, yeah, I could do what I want to do. And again, assuming we're talking about something this legal, right? I could do what I want to do. But now with this conversation, leadership, right? Of course, leadership is inclusive of staff, right? Students, parents, community. It's not leader, it's leadership. But that leadership has a leader. And I say to leaders, ultimately, you want this school to flow on your terms as the leader of this building. But that requires buy-in. And if your staff does not buy into your leadership, you cannot lead on your terms, right? So it's a two-way street. Mm-hmm. Thoughts?
Well, let me jump in here with that because that was powerful. So thank you, Superintendent Hassan, for bringing it up. I think success is subjective. It's your own, as you said before, your own terms.
Yes.
Some people, success is measured by quantitative, right? One's, bottom line, I get 100, I pass this test, that's success.
Yes.
Some folks think that it's qualitative, right? It's stories, right? And so I define success. And so when somebody texts me, guys, I want to shout out to Kane University team for coming on and supporting me as a president. I think that's an example of leadership, right? To have folks on a Saturday coming in to do that. And so Greg Bellotti said, what are they going to say at your funeral? Right. And so that's the qualitative aspect of it. So now I'm going to say that I always say this a mix. Now I'm always a mixed method guy. I want a little bit of both. All right. And so for me, success is I'm going to sit and say data and experiences. Right. Because I do think that how people, what they take away from your impact or your being in that space with them, that's legacy, right? What the impact, if it's positive, right? And then the data part is that I also want to know what impact did I have really? I mean, how many folks graduated? I mean, do I did X, Y, and Z? I want to know that, right? Like, attaining something like Kane University, being a regional university when we started, and in 4 years, we become a nationally recognized national university. And in 5 years, become a Carnegie II Art Research University that joined the likes of Rutgers, Princeton, Montclair, Rowan, right, and NJIT. And see, to me, that's success, right? That's data. But that goes to bottom line for my evaluation, right? When I'm being evaluated, right? We have to have a combination of that. And then you give the stories about what people are saying, what students are saying about you, and how they felt when they was in your charge, in your care, right? And what faculty will say about you. And that goes back to Greg's comment about the funeral. So if you take the data and the aspect of the stories, that's where I land with success, because success is very subjective, because depending on what your bottom line is of the definition of success, then that's will determine what you think success is.
Absolutely. You know, one day I was in I think I was in Sarasota, Florida, and I was doing a student assembly. And as most principals will say, just come in and fire up my kids and help them be successful. You know, that very, very vague terms. So I was talking, so they had about 500 kids in the bleachers. One kid was sitting in a wheelchair on the floor. And I was fixated on him, because I said, whatever it is I'm talking about right now, that's not probably his immediate goal. His immediate goal was probably to get out of this chair, right? So that he could walk again. So when you talk about it being subjective, it certainly is, right? Because success is based on where you are in the world right now, right? And that kid's world was probably, however, you know, I learned that the wheelchair thing was recent, and he wanted to hurry up and get out of there. And I said that therefore is his immediate definition of success: getting out of this chair so I can walk with my peers instead of being pushed around this building. So as you said, it's based on where you are in a particular point in time in your space, you know, which is a good thing. But I still go ahead.
No, so I'm just thinking, right? Because you got me thinking. You got the juices flowing, and so when we're talking about, you know, the work that you're doing, because you really talked about stories. So it gets me to think about why I think Kane University is I say all the time, they're not like us, right? Other universities are not like us. Simple as that. Because we have a mix of practitioners in the K-12 space and academicians within the theory space, and we put it together, right? Because what I love about your academy, and thank you very much for 302 consecutive Saturdays, 6 years of pouring into. But what I love about it is that you cannot take away your rich stories that you are telling about your lived experience as a leader.
Yeah.
So when these folks that are aspiring to be a principal, assistant principal, and superintendent, and God knows what else, you can give them real world lived experiences to go with the theory. Yeah. And that separates us from academics, because to me, I'm going to buy your book, Principal Kafele, because you are a practitioner. I'm not buying somebody's book that can research the topic and give you other people's lived experiences, and then take that test group, that group they want to research and study, and watch them from afar, right? And not intervene in the sense that you're not going in to produce that. And so to me, this is very valuable. So for folks that are out there, you're not just preaching to, I'm preaching to the choir because you guys come every Saturday. But those who are new, if you want something, this is what I love about Principal Kafele. This is what I love about King University, because we mix both the theory, right, the academic side, with the real world lived experience of the practitioner side. So that was on my mind when it comes to success, because I think that's Kane's secret sauce. Because you tell me what president in New Jersey that you know of was a teacher, principal, superintendent, commissioner of a state.
Yeah.
That's now informing. And what it does for us, it gives us the picture of pre-K to 24.
Yeah.
Right? And that whole continuum. And so we now can address our students' needs because we understand each area in which they go. Because when they become freshmen, they're nothing but grade 13.
Yeah.
And they're still goofy coming in. They're still doing X, Y, and Z. It's when you get to grade 15, 16, and 17 when they start to mature and they start to get it. But we now know what to do in that aspect, right? And so we can provide these services, right? That these wraparound services, these services that can get you from here to there, because we understand that just because you go from grade 12 to grade 13, you automatically don't change into a person that you need to now start not providing resources for. That was just on my mind when you said that.
Yeah, and you just said something that I just got to say. It's when you talked about them coming in goofy in grade in freshman year, grade 13. Something I've observed. So a youngster is in 5th grade in terms of a K-5 district to 6-8, so forth. A youngster's in 5th grade and exhibits maturity. I taught 5th grade and then goes to 6th and reverts back to old ways when they were goofy and immature. Then by 8th grade, they seem mature again. And then they go to 9th grade and they revert back to the silliness. And then as you just said, then in senior year, so many of them kids are very mature. I love my seniors every year. And then, some of them you hear about, they get to university in freshman year, and they went back to that silliness. So it's something about that first year, every different stage, that they revert back to some silly way that they used to be. So it's just.
But you know why? Principal Kafele, is because so our system is designed within these breaks. If you're pre-K to 5, it's designed for you to get there your 5th grade year to be that leader.
Yeah.
When you go from 6th to 8th, it's not designed for you to be that leader anymore.
Right.
It's designed for you to start over and to understand that new system, and that 8th grader becomes the leader. Then you go to 9th grade, it's the same thing. So our system, so now if that's the case, then K to 12 folks out here, also higher ed, how do you intentionally design a system that allows for those leaders to continue to lead the start of the year of those breaks, 6th grade, 9th grade, in college? How do you make sure that they can continue to lead in that space there? And I think that's the key. So being intentional about understanding the development stage of a child and a student, and then also understanding the development stages in those school systems. Because our school system value, because you have independence to walk to the cafeteria by yourself in the 5th grade, right? You understand you can go to the library, you can go to the cafeteria. When you get to 6th grade, now it's new. You may not have those, you still have the training wheels on, because guess what? 8th grade, it's a little bit more difficult, more understanding. So we need to find those breaks in those areas. So for those educators, emerging leaders, assistant principals, be cognizant of those breaks, and to make sure that your curricula spirals enough to where you can actually teach them to become leaders at an early age. And it goes by Kafele, Principal Kafele, though, how is it that freshman students are doing college level courses their freshman year? Dual enrollment, King University, a lot of schools have them, but we allow our students in 9th grade to be college students, right, in our Dream Academy, because we understand that we challenge them, we push them, we stretch them to be leaders. We don't treat them like babies.
I love it. Before we go to those rapid fire questions, tell us how we can get that book.
Amazon, Leadership by Design. You can put in Lamont Repollet, Leadership by Design, and Amazon. And you can actually come up my co-author, Robin Lander. It's on Amazon, Repollet, Leadership by Design. You don't have to put Winning Hearts, Building Your Brand. It comes up. You click on that link right there they have, and you order that book. But don't get the book. I'm going to tell you this. Do not buy my book if it's going to sit on your shelf because you collect books. Don't. I don't need you to collect books. Every proceed from this book is going back to students for Travel Learn. I made it very clear. I'm not making money off this book. What I need you to do is to use this book as a resource, as a tool, and put it in your tool chest and bring it out when you need to. You don't have to read the book from the start to begin in its entirety. Read it, skim through it, find out what chapters resonate with you and which chapters you want to learn more about. Because if you're doing great Winning Hearts and Building a Culture, skip that. Go to the branding aspect of it. Learn about that. So use this as a tool. Keep it with you. If you look at my book right now, I started writing in it because, and Kafele said, when you write these books, you start to create chapters. You don't read it into its entirety until there's a proof in your hands, and you send it to the editor. And so now I have to read the book as if I've never read it before. So I have my book that I go through my tools, I have writing, use this as a resource, keep it on your desk, keep it available, not in your shelf.
There you go. There you go. Go to Amazon right now, folks, and get yourself a copy, right? Let's go to the rapid fire. These are quick, no commas. Just one sentence or even one word, whatever it is, and we go through 21 real quick. Number one, is education on the right path for underserved children?
Wrong path.
Can true equity occur in America's schools for Black, brown, and other underserved students?
No.
Does Dr. Lamont Repollet's work contribute to the progress we desperately need?
Yes.
If you could do a reset on your life, would your line of work be different or the same?
No, because I think I'm walking in my purpose, God's plan.
Why do you continue to do this work?
As Dr. Gray would say, it's hard work.
What fires you up particularly within the work that you do?
Stories from students when they come back after they graduate and the students on campus and what they do. I get energized by them. They're my why.
What do you dislike about the work you do?
Nothing.
What has been your greatest victory in the work that you do?
Cultivating those around me. The folks that serve under me, cultivating them, whether encouraging them to go back to get their doctorate, whether encouraging them to get their master's, whether encouraging them to go on a different career path or a different way, challenging them to be great.
What was your greatest mistake in the work you do? That could go all the way back to your principal years if you want.
The greatest mistake is that I listened to someone to tell me to make a decision on something. There was a one person, one teacher that I knew that was bad for kids. And I listened to someone, I listened to her supervisor, and then this person got tenure, and I knew exactly who this person was. So I realized now, important decisions like that, you are the leader. Sometimes you might make the decision out of isolation, and you have to live with it. I could not live with the decision because I listened to someone else. Never happened again after that.
There you go. I understand. What has been your greatest challenge in the work that you do?
Is
Keep them short.
No, winning hearts.
Winning hearts. Okay. Are you proud of your first year as an assistant principal?
Oh yeah. That's at Irvington High School. I cut my teeth at Irvington High School. Very proud of my first year there. It allowed me to understand that I don't have to have imposter syndrome, that I belong.
Are you proud of your first year as a principal?
Oh yeah. First year as a principal was encouraging because I started to understand and build the brand of Lamont Repollet.
Who inspires you in your work?
My family, my wife, my kids, and my friends, my close friends around me, my mother, father. Those who know, they inspire me. My family, my peoples, my tribe.
What book
my lionesses.
What book do you recommend for our fam out there this afternoon?
My book, Leadership by Design, but also The Alchemist. I think that once you understand your personal legend, once you understand that the universe, if you're doing what is right, the universe will conspire to bring what you want. But are you ready for what the universe is going to give you? That's the challenge.
Good stuff. What do you want to accomplish that you have not accomplished yet?
I don't know yet, because I think every time I have a plan, it's God says that's not your plan, it's something else. So right now, leave it up and let it be organic and let it grow.
All right. Are you satisfied with where you are professionally?
Yes, 100% satisfied where I'm at professionally.
Is there another gear to your leadership, or are you at peak performance now?
Oh, no, it's another gear. It's always. This is just the beginning. I tell people that if you like what we're doing at Kane right now, wait to see us in 5 years.
What would you say to an assistant principal out there who continues to face closed doors to the principalship?
Keep your head up, because that door that's closed may not be the door for you. So if you can't go to the back door, open the door, go to the side door, but go through a door. Because let me tell you, one of those doors is going to be made for you. When you get there, what are you going to do?
What would you say to a leader out there who's lost their leadership passion?
Find your why. Go back to why you did it, your purpose. Right? Go back to what it said. Find your purpose.
What would you say to a leader out there who's lost their leadership confidence?
Go back to your why. Go, why not you? This could fail, so fail forward. Assess, find exactly where it was. Listen, be open to criticism. Be open to listen to people who have told you something. Go back and look at your failures and create a plan, because a lot of great inventions fail. People fail. Those blueprints, they failed. Those ideas, they failed until they tried. So you just go back and create your next iteration. Go back and go create your next leadership by design.
There you go. Last one. If Dr. Lamont Repollet was a word in a dictionary, what would be your definition?
Dope as fuck. I'm sorry.
Don't worry about it. You ain't the first one, right? Good stuff. Good stuff. Let's see what people are saying about that, right? Yeah, they seem to like that, right? So folks, those of you who are fam, you know what we do. We put our favorite emojis up if today's session resonated with you, if you found it useful, if you found that you could utilize what you heard, if you found that it can be infused into your practice, or if you just liked it, right? Give us your favorite emoji. And while you do that, let me get my favorite emoji, which is a real joint. I got my Louisville Slugger, right? So every time you came to the plate, bam, you hit it out the park. So great stuff, great stuff. We appreciate you. So and by the way, since I'm wearing my Satchel Paige jersey with number 25 on the back, that means that every time you came to bat, you were one of the few people that could hit one of his pitches. So, good stuff, good stuff, good stuff. Tell the folks once again, not only where they can get the book, but how can they follow you and see what you're doing? And if you even wanted someone to ask you a question or so, what they got to do?
So I'm gonna have my team put up some of my stuff that's watching, but it's at Prez Rep with a Z, PREZ, Rep REP 18, Prez Rep. You can also find me. The book is on Amazon. As Coach Prime said, I ain't too hard to find. You can Google me. You can do what you need to do. If you want to talk to me, hit me up on social media. If you want to just talk leadership, if you're looking for executive coaching, the Rep group is available to support you. I ain't too hard to find, Coach.
There you go. You know this brother here I put on the stage?
That's my man right there. What's up, Andrew? How you doing, brother? Yes, yeah. He's a great superintendent down in South Jersey down there doing his thing.
I've been down to his district, and man, we won't hold it against him that he's a Sixers fan, but yeah, good brother. All right, one more time, folks, you can go to Amazon and get yourself a copy of the book. My suggestion would be to get it now because it's in huge demand. Last time I checked, it was number 1 on Amazon in education administration and another category, so it's moving. Hey, Rep, do me a favor, stay on while I close out.
Okay, cool.
Matter of fact, Rep, any parting words to the fam out there before?
I mean, honestly, I think we had a great conversation. For those folks out there, this is your first time really interacting with me. I said, I just believe that be your authentic self. And so, I mean, I'm the person that come to work wearing a suit and a pair of Jordans, right? I don't hide who I am, and it allows me to be incredible, to be great, to be innovative. And so, my whole thing is that thank you for coming on a Saturday to listen to me and to hear what I have to say. Thank you. God bless.
Appreciate you. Stay there even when I go off. Stay on so we can talk on. Hey, fam out there, appreciate you being here. You know, as I've been saying for 302 weeks now, appreciate you coming on. You find it not robbery to join us and get some of the knowledge that we disseminate every Saturday morning at 11 o'clock. Used to be 10:55, but now 11 o'clock. So this was the first week of Black History Month. We got another big one next week, week 302. We got Dr. Chika Akua from Atlanta, Dr. DeLacy Davis from Newark, New Jersey, and Coach Alfred Powell from Dayton, Ohio. They do a lot of work together. So, and I know them all very well, but I decided let me bring them all together on one platform, and let's get down on the topic, meeting the academic, social, and emotional needs of the Black child. So that'll be next week. Once again, meeting the academic, social, and emotional needs of the Black child. It's going to be another powerful session. Join us at 11 o'clock next Saturday morning. But before you join us, join Sean Hurt at 10 o'clock. Facebook Live, Create and Educate with Dr. Sheikah Houston, Dr. Tammy Taylor at 10:30. AP New Principles Academy at 11 o'clock. And then PGP Podcast with Josh Tovar and Dr. Madi Moreno on Sunday at 6 o'clock Eastern. Make sure that you get my new joint. It's not new anymore. It's just my newest. Where we are. Here we go. Make sure you get yourself a copy of What Is My Value, instructionally to the teachers I supervise. So you can go to Amazon and get yourself a copy, or to ascd.org, either one. Make sure that you go to principalkafele.com and register for my Summer Leadership Institute on July 9 and 10 in Savannah, Georgia. Right, all the information is up. The registration information is up. Just go to my homepage on principalkafele.com And come on down and join us in Savannah. We're going to have 2 strong days of instructional leadership. We've been doing this for 9 years now, so come on and join me. The February conference, which is in a week from now, I guess, the 16th. Come on and join us at Seton Hall University on February 16th at the Nurturing Greatness Conference. You can go to my Facebook page. Right at the top of the page, you'll see the flyer. Hit that QR code and come on and join us. New Jersey Alliance of Black School Educators. As I said, I'm the president-elect. The president is my man, Dr. Elford Rawls-Dill. And we have our first informational session. We got over 100 people coming, and that's a lot of people in considering what it is. And want you to be a part of it. So if you haven't received a personal invite from me, that's because I'm not connected to you. If you're a New Jersey Black educator, then go to any of my social media platforms, inbox me, say you're interested in being a part of New Jersey ABSE, New Jersey Alliance of Black School Educators, and you want to come to the informational meeting. I will get that momentarily, and I'll send you the flyer so that you can register, and then we know that you will be in the building virtually on February 24th at 6:30. Subscribe to the AP New Principals Academy YouTube channel. There are 24,800 some odd subscribers, so that's a whole lot of people. But we want to get it up to 25,000 subscribers now. So make sure that you subscribe to the channel. Don't just visit the channel, subscribe to it, and then hit the notifications bell so that you can be notified when we go live every Saturday morning. And then lastly, your diet. Make sure you're eating right, y'all. Your exercise, get it in. And your virus precautions. It's a lot going on out here, right? A lot of sickness out here. I've been sick. I was sick 2 weeks ago. So make sure that you're taking care of yourselves as best as you can. Other than that, have a great week. Have an extraordinary week. Have your best week yet. Peace. Peace. Thumbs up. Cock that fist back all the way. Count to 3. 1, 2, 3. Bam! Just like Shakur Stevenson last weekend. I'll see y'all next Saturday.